Chapter 138. Battle Invitation. The sudden situation stunned everyone. They stared blankly at the two hands blocking Cholong's fists. They could clearly feel two abnormally violent waves of spirit energy pouring down from Cholong's fists. However, to everyone's surprise, the two hands did not move at all. Even the terrifying power that poured out was instantly obliterated by the two hands. Everyone's eyes followed the two hands and finally stopped on the two teenagers behind Qinfeng. Then, everyone's face stiffened. It was actually the two of them. This was too inconceivable. Their palms shook slightly, and Cholong retreated. After being stunned for a moment, Qinfeng understood who had done it. Many thanks to the two of you for your help. He turned around and looked at Mo Feng and Qianyan. The two of them smiled faintly and said, "Qinfeng, this isn't a good job." Qinfeng also smiled. Before he came here, he had gone to find these two people because he knew in his heart that with his strength alone, it was impossible for him to shake the Tang sect. The only ones who could go against the Tang sect were the Beauty Gang and the Madman Society, and he definitely couldn't count on the Beauty Gang, so he could only rely on these two. Mo Feng and Qianyan's actions stunned the people from the Tang sect. They didn't understand why the Crazy Talker Society would meddle in the affairs of the Tang sect. The two of you, this is a matter of the Tang sect. I hope that you will not interfere. Otherwise, my fist will not recognize anyone. Just as Tang Wei was about to speak, he was interrupted by the hot-tempered Cholong. He was so angry that he wanted to slap Cholong to death. No matter how powerful and hot-tempered you are, you can't talk to the two leaders of the Crazy Words gang like that. Perhaps they were just here to mediate. Now that you've said that, with their tempers, they're going to flip the entire Tang sect upside down. Ha ha! Sure enough, as soon as Cholong finished speaking, Mo Feng and Qianyan burst into laughter. Their laughter was filled with dense ridicule. "Who do you think you are, Cholong? How dare you talk to us like that?" Mo Feng sneered and said, "Do you really think that with Tang Ke protecting the Tang sect, no one will dare to touch you? Even if I destroy the Tang sect today, what can Tang Ke do to me? We are both disciples of the Heavenly Palace. I don't think that he will be able to suppress me in a few years." Qianyan clapped his hands. In a split second, in the hall, the wind whistled and spiritual energy surged. 5 figures with fierce auras appeared in the hall. This energy pressure was too strong. Even Cholong felt his breathing become a little hurried. One of the 5 tiger generals of the Madman Society. Everyone was shocked. This Qianyan wasn't joking. He was really planning to destroy the Tang sect. He even brought out the 5 tiger generals who were rarely used. The 5 of them were all at the peak of the late stage of the bone-strengthening realm. They were not weaker than Cholong at all. 2 of them even had a stronger aura than Cholong. Tang Wei trembled. Without Tang Ke, the Tang sect wouldn't be able to stop the Crazy Words gang if they really wanted to make a move. Please don't be angry. It was Cholong who was rude. Tang Wei hurriedly apologized. He secretly sent a voice transmission to Cholong. "Brother Cho, don't you know who these two are? Hurry up and admit defeat. Otherwise, if they really attack the Tang sect, you and I won't be able to bear the consequences." Cholong's breathing became hurried. With his personality, it was almost impossible for him to admit defeat. However, he also knew that without Tang Ke, the Tang sect wouldn't be attacked by the Crazy Words gang. He could order the leaders of any gang, but he had to bow his head to the leaders of the Beauty Gang and the Crazy Words gang. "I, Cholong, have misspoken. Please forgive me." He cupped his hands and bowed slightly. Mo Feng chuckled and ignored him. She looked at Tang Wei and sneered. "Tang Wei, 5th Prince, your Tang sect is getting more and more arrogant. Do you think that with Tang Ke here, you don't put the Crazy Words gang and the Beauty Gang in your eyes?" "I wouldn't dare." Tang Wei hurriedly lowered his head and whispered, "How would I dare to offend the Crazy Words gang? It's just that this matter doesn't seem to have anything to do with the Crazy Words gang." "Little cutie, no, Qinfeng is a member of the Crazy Words gang. If you bully him, aren't you provoking the Crazy Words gang?" When Qianyan said this, everyone was stunned. What's going on? When did Qinfeng join the Crazy Words gang? Tang Wei was also stunned. He had no idea when Qinfeng joined the Crazy Words gang. Even if he joined the Crazy Words gang, he shouldn't have hurt an important member of the Tang sect in our own territory. Tang Wei said, "You bullied his friends, so he stood up for his friends. What's wrong with that?" Mo Feng sneered. Party leader Mo's words are wrong. Everyone knows the rules of the Saint Ryuan. If all the nepotism is combined, then it's a big sect. How can there be a fight between the three major sects? Cho Long said, "Since Qin Feng has joined the Crazy Words gang, it's indeed inappropriate for us to attack him. However, how the Tang sect treats other people isn't something you should care about. The Tang sect has its own rules. As long as it doesn't involve the Beauty Gang, the Crazy Words gang, and the three major sects, I think even you have no right to control us." Party leader Mo, Party leader Qian, Big Brother Cho is right. Tang Wei nodded and said, "If Qin Feng stood up for his friends, then he should make it clear whether he's a member of the Crazy Words gang or an ordinary person." If he's a member of the Crazy Words gang, does that mean that the Crazy Words gang is interfering with our Tang sect? Mo Feng and Qian Yin frowned. "Then what do you want to do?" Mo Feng asked. Tang Wei smiled and said, "Since the two of you are here, the Tang sect has to give you face. How about this? We'll each take a step back today and not make things difficult for those people for the time being. However, Qin Feng is causing trouble in our Tang sect. He has to give us an explanation. Otherwise, once this precedent is set, how are we going to manage the Tang sect in the future? Aren't you just making fun of me?" Qin Feng sneered and said, "1 month later, I'll challenge Cho Long as an individual. If I win, you can't bully my friends anymore. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me. I think it's feasible. 1 month later, we'll let them fight it out." Qian nodded and said, "Tang Wei, what do you think?" Tang Wei hesitated. He was really unwilling to let go of Qin Feng now. Do you think the Crazy Words gang is easy to bully? Or do you think the words of the third leader of the Crazy Words gang don't have any weight?" Mo Feng's voice was cold. "If the Tang sect goes too far, the Crazy Words gang can only accompany them to the end." Hearing this, Tang Wei's body trembled. Then he nodded and said, "Let's do as he says. When the time comes, I hope the two leaders won't interfere. We still have matters to attend to. Everyone, please forgive us for not seeing you out." Tang Wei ordered them to leave. Everyone sighed. Who would have thought that things would turn out like this? Little Cutie joined the Crazy Words gang and became the third leader. "Aya, this is too hateful." They didn't fight. Flower Demon stomped her feet in anger. "What does it have to do with you?" Wind Void had just spoken when he suddenly stopped talking. He pointed at Flower Demon, unable to say anything else. "Why are you looking at me?" Flower Demon's eyes paused. Then she guiltily turned around and walked away. At the same time, she waved her hand and said, "Go back. They didn't fight." Then everyone saw a few people leaving the hall, and those people were the experts of the Beauty Gang. Chapter 139. The three party leaders inside the hall, Mo Feng, Qian Yin, Tang Wei, Cho Long, and the other Tang sect members felt a chill run down their spines. They didn't know when the Beauty Gang's experts had arrived. From the looks of it, the Flower Demon was waiting for them to fight until both sides were injured. Then she would come and take advantage of the situation and wipe them all out. Just thinking about it made their scalps go numb. While they were confronting each other, there was another powerful force eyeing them covetously, especially Tang Wei, who felt a chill run down his spine. If he had been a little more stubborn and fought with the Crazy Speech Gang, then the Tang sect would really have ceased to exist. After leaving the hall, Qin Feng asked, "Will the Beauty Gang really make a move against you? Isn't your relationship pretty good?" Mo Feng smiled bitterly. "You're looking at things too simply. Our relationship is one thing, but it's a different story when it comes to gangs. Believe it or not, if we really fight with the Tang sect, Gong Xiaoxi and Flower Demon won't hesitate to lead the Beauty Gang's experts to flatten the Crazy Speech Gang and the Tang sect." "It's that serious?" Qin Feng was shocked. They have a good relationship with Tang Ran. So what? Even if they destroy the Tang sect, the relationship between the sisters will still be the same. Tang Ran won't say anything. On the other hand, if the Beauty Gang is weak and the Tang sect attacks them, Tang Ran will also attack. That's a complicated relationship. Qin Feng shook his head. He really didn't understand. You'll understand when you know what the heavenly temple is. Mo Feng patted Qin Feng's shoulder and pretended to be mature. What do you mean? Qin Feng didn't understand. You'll know in the future. Qian Yin smiled and didn't want to say more. Seeing this, Qin Feng didn't ask. He said, personal feelings can affect gang fights, so why did you agree to help me and even fight to the death with the Tang sect? First of all, the conflict between factions is complicated and ever-changing to begin with. I didn't help you just because of personal reasons. Secondly, you're already the third leader of the Mad Speech Society. How can we not show ourselves when you're being bullied by the Tang sect? Mo Feng said. When will I join you? Qin Feng was speechless. If it weren't for this identity, would you have escaped so easily? Qian Yin replied with a question, then smiled and said, we'll bet the entire Mad Speech Party with you. You won't be ungrateful, right? Is it so easy to join the Madman Society? Qin Feng muttered. He quickly understood the two's intentions. They wanted to rope him in. What about the Tang sect's forces? With our strength, can we eradicate them? Also, who is Tang Ke? The two of them looked at him in surprise. Qian Yin smiled and said, you're already thinking from the standpoint of the Mad Speech Party. Since I've offended the Tang sect, it's naturally good that I have a force to support me. If I don't make them suffer, I won't be able to rest easy. That's true. Mo Feng nodded and said to Qin Feng, but what you need to think about now is how to defeat Chulong in a month. That guy isn't easy to deal with even for me. But if you can really defeat him, the Tang sect won't dare to trouble you anymore. Do you really believe their words? My friends don't have high statuses, and I don't think people like Tang Wei and Chulong are magnanimous people. If I don't get rid of this thorn in my flesh, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. The two of them looked at him in surprise and asked at the same time, what are you planning to do? Destroy the Tang sect. Qin Feng said. The two of them were stunned, then smiled at each other and said, we lack someone like you who has the courage to attack the Tang sect. We still need to think carefully about how to destroy the Tang sect. Also, that Tang Ke is troublesome. I'm also worried about him. I heard that he can destroy the Mad Speech Party and the Beauty Group by himself. Qin Feng nodded. He was quite wary of this Sky Hall's first disciple. After all, some of the rumors were too shocking. Brother, you're worrying too much. After all, rumors are just rumors. Mo Feng shook his head and said, don't listen to those people's nonsense. We have a good relationship with Tang Ke, so he didn't make a move. Tang Ke is indeed very powerful, but the Mad Speech Party and the Beauty Group can fight against the Tang sect. It's not without reason. Right, you have to do what you promised us before. Qin Feng's face stiffened and said, didn't you guys help me because you want to pull me into your group? You can't say it like that. You promised us first, so we helped you. Qian Yin said, it's not like you can't do it, right? How is that possible? Come to my place tonight. All right, but if we're kicked out, we'll look for you to settle the score. The two of them raised their fists at Qin Feng. Don't worry, I'll definitely let you guys taste Gong Xiaoxi's dishes. Qin Feng patted his chest and guaranteed. Right, a heaven-class student has the qualifications to join the Mad Speech Party, right? Mo Feng looked at Ouyang Shi and said, with your recommendation, of course she can. But I feel that she's more suitable for the Beauty Group. It's just that the Beauty Group is very strict, so they might not agree. Of course, if she's willing to work with a group of men like us, it's not impossible. Hearing this, Qin Feng thought for a moment and said, let's send her to the Beauty Group. You're confident? The two of them were surprised. Do they dare to not listen to my words? Qin Feng shrugged and brought Ouyang Shi back to the soaring phoenix courtyard. Later, Qin Feng whispered in Ouyang Shi's ear, this will it work? Ouyang Shi was shocked. It's fine, they're not smart. With our shrewdness, this matter is in the bag. Back at the soaring phoenix courtyard, Qin Feng deliberately declared himself as the third leader of the Mad Speech Party in front of the three girls and threatened them that if they dare to disrespect him again, he will make a move on the Beauty Group. At this time, Ouyang Shi sternly warned Qin Feng not to act recklessly and to ask her for instructions first. The two of them echoed each other. making Qin Feng somewhat restrained by Ouyang Shi. Ouyang Shi, it's you who doesn't want to join the mad speech party. Why can't I join? I don't agree. A group of stinky men? What's so good about them? With your potential, it's better to join the beauty group. What benefits did the beauty group give you for you to speak for them like this? Anyway, I don't know anyone in the beauty group. In the future, if the mad speech party wants to expand, I'll use them. You think you're so powerful. Huh, not now, but what about in the future? Me, Mo Feng, and Xinyan's potential is not greater than Flower Demon and Gong Xiaoxi. Ouyang Shi, I advise you and Zhao Qi to stay away from this party, so that it won't be convenient for me to make a move in the future. Soon, Ouyang Shi was pulled away by Gong Xiaoxi for a talk. From then on, Shi, Zhao Qi, and Fan Miao Miao officially became members of the beauty group. Their problem was solved. Qin Feng was slightly relieved. He now has to think about the battle with Chou Long a month later. This is not a small problem with his current strength. Even if he uses all his trump cards, he is still not Chou Long's opponent. Chapter 140. Bone-strengthening pill, but before that, Qin Feng still had a problem. How was he going to convince Gong Xiaoxi to cook? Moreover, how was he going to make her eat happily with Mo Feng and Qianyan? Thinking of this, he could not help but despise these two people. They had been together for so long and were old acquaintances, but these two had not even eaten Gong Xiaoxi's cooking. This made him seriously question how low their EQ was. However, since he had made a promise to them, he naturally had to find a way to accomplish this task. After all, these two seemed to have very good personalities, but they were actually quite difficult to negotiate with. This could be seen from the fact that they had wanted to destroy the Tang sect. If such a person found out that he had been tricked, it wouldn't be a good thing for him. After all, he had offended the Tang sect and had a bad relationship with the two big sisters of the beauty gang. If he offended the mad speech party again, there would be no place for him in St. Ryuan. How can I make Gong Xiaoxi obediently listen to me? Qin Feng pondered for a moment. Using forceful means to force them would definitely not work. If the two of them knew that he was threatening the goddess in their hearts, they would definitely kill him. At this time, Qin Feng really regretted it. If he had gotten the battle line array from her a little later, he would have been able to order Gong Xiaoxi around. Now that the two of them had agreed not to offend each other, if he were to go back on his word, his fate would not be any better. After thinking for a while, Qin Feng's eyes lit up. Maybe I can try this. He found Gong Xiaoxi and told her that he wanted to surrender and live in harmony with the beauty gang. At the same time, he used his status as the third leader of the Mad Speech Gang to have the other two gangs ostracize the Tang sect and wait for an opportunity to destroy them. At the same time, he vaguely mentioned that this was also Mo Feng and Qianyan's intention, and that the two of them wanted to discuss this matter with her. Gong Xiaoxi said, "You want to eradicate the Tang sect as soon as you join the Mad Speech Society? I'm afraid you're just afraid of their revenge. With my current identity, would they dare to do anything to me?" Qin Feng shrugged and said, "Even if I have a personal grudge, can you deny that you have never thought about it? Gong Xiaoxi, you and I both know that neither the Beauties Gang nor the Mad Speech Gang can fight against the Tang sect on their own because you're all afraid of Tang Quebec. Furthermore, you've seen what the Tang sect is doing now. If we don't do anything to them, they'll eat us up sooner or later. Also, do you really think that Chou Long was rude to Mo Feng just because of a slip of the tongue? That's probably because they subconsciously don't care about the Mad Speech Party." Hearing this, Gong Xiaoxi's pretty face froze, and her beautiful eyes flickered. If it were your subordinates or the members of the Mad Speech Party, would they dare to be so rude to Tang Ke? At that time, the reason why Chou Long dared to do that was because he had no respect for your two gangs. Tang Ke's existence gave them the confidence to face you. The reason why they apologized later was because Tang Ke wasn't here at the moment. Think about it carefully. If Tang Ke was present at that time, would Tang Wei and Chou Long bow their heads and apologize? Who knows? They might even anger Mo Feng and Qian Yin even more, forcing them to make a move and destroy the Mad Speech Party. Qin Feng looked at Gong Xiaoxi and said, "Think about this carefully." After saying that, He didn't say anything else. For someone as smart as Gong Xiaoxi, the more you said to her, the worse the effect would be. It would be better to stop at an appropriate point and let her think about it on her own. Qin Feng picked up the teapot on the table and poured a cup for Gong Xiaoxi and himself. After a while, Gong Xiaoxi raised her head and met Qin Feng's gaze. She said, "What you said isn't without reason, but the Tang sect's influence is deeply rooted. It's not that easy to eradicate them. Everything depends on human effort. If we don't do it, we'll never be able to do it just by thinking about it. But if we do it one by one, you'll find that it's hard to think, but not necessarily hard to do." Qin Feng looked deeply at Gong Xiaoxi and said faintly, "Judging from Chou Long's disrespect to the two leaders of the Mad Speech Party, the Tang sect definitely has plans to swallow you all up one by one." After a long silence, Gong Xiaoxi nodded and asked, "What plans do you all have? Mo Feng and Qian Yin will come over later. We can discuss this topic, but it can't be too deep. Talk more about ordinary things and give some advice in this regard. The time hasn't come yet, so we have to wait patiently. Also, this matter can't be done in secret. It has to be done openly. For example, if we cook normally and they come over to eat, it's inevitable that the Tang sect will notice if we're too careful." Seeing that Gong Xiaoxi didn't change much, Qin Feng said softly, "The most important thing is to avoid the flower demon and Tang Ran. The latter goes without saying, but you know the former's temperament. Right now, we're just having a preliminary discussion, so we can't talk too much. When the time is right, we'll discuss the plan in secret." Gong Xiaoxi nodded when she heard this. "Okay, bring them to the side hall." After successfully tricking Gong Xiaoxi, Qin Feng sighed in relief. Although it was a little inhumane, the conflict between the three sects had always existed, so he wasn't sowing discord. Then, he found Mo Feng and Qian Yin and told them clearly that two men meeting a woman was after all a little awkward. They had to discuss the current situation of the three sects, such as joining forces to suppress the Tang sect, to ease the awkward atmosphere. "Don't worry, we don't feel awkward." Mo Feng waved his hand. "Is this the reason why you haven't made any progress until now?" Qin Feng curled his lips. "What do you mean?" The two asked. "You don't feel awkward, but haven't you considered whether Gong Xiaoxi feels awkward? If you want to move the heart of a goddess, you have to put yourself in her shoes and pretend to be interested in any topic she brings up. Remember, the same hobbies, goals, and habits can shorten the distance between two people. Think about it. With more common topics, won't your relationship become closer?" Hearing this, the two nodded and gave Qin Feng a thumbs up. "Brother, that's a good move." Just as he expected, Gong Xiaoxi finished preparing the meal and invited them to sit down. After a while, he found an opportunity to leave. As for how their discussion went, he knew from the smiles on their faces when they left. "Do you have any way to quickly increase your strength?" Qin Feng asked as he sent the two to the door. "You just broke through the bone strengthened realm not long ago. If you want to increase your strength again, it will be very difficult." "Thinking about it," Mo Feng said. "Brother, you have to work hard in the battle with Chou Long in a month. If you have a bone-strengthened pill, it's not impossible." Suddenly, Qian Yin said, "Bone-strengthened pill?" Qin Feng's eyes lit up. Although he wasn't familiar with the pill, from the name, he knew that it was a pill prepared for bone-strengthened realm experts. "Where?" Qin Feng quickly asked. The two hesitated for a while, and Mo Feng said, "Brother, I advise you not to think about it. I taught you how to pursue the goddess. Have you ever hesitated like this?" Qin Feng said with dissatisfaction. Qian Yin shook his head and said, "Not telling you is for your own good. Because even if I told you your master, Senior Gu, wouldn't let you take the bone-strengthening pill at your current stage. It's such a precious pill, even the medicinal ingredients he cultivated might not be able to refine it. And our master doesn't know why, but he doesn't let us use the bone-strengthened pill." Chapter 141. Steal Medicine. After sending off Mo Feng and Qian Yin, Qin Feng returned to his courtyard. After pondering for a long time, he finally went to Flower Demon's room. "Sister Jeannie, do you want the bone-strengthening pill?" Qin Feng asked straightforwardly. As for Qin Feng disturbing her beautiful dream, Flower Demon's face was full of resentment. She sat on the bed and dozed off, but after hearing her words, her sleepiness disappeared. What did you say? Bone-strengthening pill? Do you have it? I don't have it, but we can make it ourselves. Hearing this, Flower Demon's spirit immediately disappeared. She rolled her eyes and said, "How can it be so easy to get the herbs for refining the bone-strengthening pill? Didn't my master cultivate many precious medicinal herbs since ancient times? Let's think of a way to get some." Qin Feng whispered. The Flower Demon looked at Qin Feng with disdain and said, "You actually have designs on your own master. Are you still human?" Qin Feng pondered for a moment and nodded. "Indeed, a little. If you don't want to, then forget it." After that, Qin Feng turned around and walked out. Flower Demon's big eyes rolled around. She hurriedly called out to Qin Feng and said, "Wait a minute." Qin Feng turned around. "What's the matter?" Flower Demon combed her hair and said with a casual expression, "Since you called me sister, I'll reluctantly help you this time. Well, let's discuss how to act." Qin Feng smiled and did not expose her. Flower Demon quickly got out of bed, wrapped herself in clothes, closed the door, and discussed with Qin Feng what to do. That old thing raised a horn dog with a sharp nose. Let's first get a piece of bone coated with knockout powder and knock the dog out. There are 3 paths to the medicine garden. The east and west paths cannot be taken. Not only are there people guarding them, there are also sensing stones to prevent thieves. Only the south path is the safest. Although it is close to the old man's residence, this is where the old man is wise. Any thief who wants to steal medicine would not dare to take the south path. That's right, there are sensing stones in all directions of the medicine garden. You can't casually enter, but I know a direction to go in. But there's an old tree at the entrance. Without the token made from the trunk of that tree, the old tree will sense it. That's why the old man used it to catch thieves. Qin Feng looked at her in a daze. This Hua Xiaoyao really knew everything in detail. If one hadn't personally experienced it several times, it would be impossible for them to know so much about it. She was afraid that the thief was herself. Don't look at me like that. I only know a little about it, because I often fertilize those herbs, Flower Demon said. Qin Feng nodded seriously. He was too lazy to expose her, even if it was very obvious. If you were him, what would you do? He asked. Take the south path and use your spiritual power to cover your breath. That old man is not a spiritual power master. With your spiritual power, you should be able to pass. After thinking about it, Flower Demon said, "I will take you to the entrance, but that tree is a problem. I don't know if the spiritual shield has any effect on it. You have been there so many times. I don't know if it works." Qin Feng curled his lips. At this time, she was still pretending to be innocent. Soon, Qin Feng knew that he had misunderstood. Flower Demon said angrily, "I have discussed it with little Cece many times, but she is too timid and has no courage. She doesn't dare to do this with me." Seeing Flower Demon's resentful face, Qin Feng cursed silently. She had her own principles, was not stealing from others because she was timid and had no courage. But thinking about it carefully, it did take a lot of courage to dare to do this. She is different from us. In this regard, I completely agree with your approach. Young people should dare to think, dare to do, dare to fight, and dare to break through. You can't be timid in everything you do, Qin Feng said without blushing. Hua Xiaoyao patted Qin Feng's shoulder seriously and said like an old man, "If little Cece had the same awareness as you, he wouldn't have to worry about leaving the herb garden bare." On this matter, the two quickly reached an agreement. Under the guidance of Flower Demon, they found a piece of meat bone, applied the drug, and soon came to the herb garden that had been planted since ancient times. The unicorn dog was knocked out. Use your spiritual power to protect the two of us. As long as we don't make any noise, that old guy shouldn't be able to find us. Flower Demon whispered. Qin Feng nodded. His spiritual power slowly flowed out and wrapped around the two of them. They carefully walked past the residence of ancient times. Behind the courtyard was the herb garden. It was dark in front of them. They could vaguely see a fence that was half a person's height. Behind the fence, it was even darker. They couldn't even see their own fingers. Many directions here use sensing stones. Once you enter the sensing stone area, even spiritual power is useless. At this point, Flower Demon's little face was a lot more dignified. She waved to Qin Feng and said, "Follow me." Qin Feng followed behind Flower Demon and crossed left and right. Soon, they avoided many areas and approached the herb garden. "It's here. There are no sensing stones, but there's an entrance," Flower Demon said, pointing to the front. Qin Feng looked over. Behind the fence, there was a rustling sound of leaves blowing from time to time. It should be the old tree that became a spirit. Spiritual power wrapped a stone and flew in, but in an instant, a rattan stretched out from the branch and entangled the stone. "How is it?" Flower Demon asked. "No, spiritual power will also be detected by the old tree." Qin Feng shook his head. What should he do? He had already come here. How could he be willing to go back? Suddenly, he thought of the purple bowl on his body. The spiritual power in it could not be sensed even by the spirit master. Thinking of this, he drew out a wisp of spiritual power, wrapped a stone again, and threw it in. This time, the big tree did not respond. "There's a way." Qin Feng was overjoyed and did not say much to Flower Demon. He mobilized the spiritual power in the purple bowl and passed through the defense of the old tree. "It's really possible. How did you do it?" Flower Demon looked excited. "Change the way spiritual power operates." Qin Feng vaguely responded and looked at the herb garden. This look scared him, and he almost screamed out. Outside the garden and inside the garden can be regarded as two layers of heaven. Inside the garden is colorful and full of brilliance. The front is full of herbs, and on the other side is a small forest full of various fruits. In the depths of the forest, there are fist-sized ginseng fruits and basin-sized purple fungus growing on the dead wood, blooming with faint purple light. There is also a black ginseng, 1 foot long, surrounded by a faint black light, which is extremely magical. There are so many good things that Qin Feng can't see them all. "Damn, Sister Genie, what are you doing?" Suddenly, he saw Flower Demon, and his eyes immediately stared. This fellow actually went into the orchard to eat in the blink of an eye. "Sister Genie, this time we just came to pick the medicinal materials of the bone-strengthening pill." Qin Feng reminded her. "This is not urgent. It's not easy to come in. How can we turn it upside down?" Flower Demon opened her mouth to eat a red fruit and said indifferently, "Also, I promised to get the medicinal materials of the bone-strengthening pill. This is the herb garden of Saint Ryuan. The old man just planted some medicinal materials here." Chapter 142. The jade pendant looks strange. Fuck, I %yen hashtag at. Qin Feng was so angry that he wanted to curse. He just wanted to steal some herbs from Gujio. Even if he was found out in the future, he would at most be punished. But if he stole something from Saint Ruin, the nature would be different. She was the granddaughter of the vice principal. Naturally, she would be fine, but he was different. "Flower Demon, I only took my master's herbs," Qin Feng said. "Although that old man cultivated a lot of herbs, I tell you, if you want to refine the bone-strengthening pill, he doesn't have all the herbs." Flower Demon said, "Now, follow this sister, and I guarantee that you will get the herbs for the bone-strengthening pill today." Qin Feng grimaced. Looking at the Flower Demon's posture, she wanted to sweep the medicinal garden clean. In this way, it was impossible to not be noticed. "Flower Demon, do you want to steal all the herbs here? Damn, little cutie, what do you think this little demon is? Can this little demon do such a wicked thing?" Flower Demon angrily said, "Little cutie, this is our back garden. If we have nothing to do, we have to stroll around. If we steal too much at one time, we will definitely be discovered. In this way, it will be more difficult for us to sneak in next time. Thin water flows long. Do you think this little demon is so short-sighted?" Qin Feng's mouth fiercely twitched, but he also admitted that Flower Demon's words were right. The more greedy a person was, the more opportunities they would create for themselves. The longer they were discovered, the more opportunities they would have to enter here. Being a thief with such a high awareness, it was also the tragedy of Saint Ryuan. "Damn, I really boarded a pirate ship," Qin Feng lamented. There was no doubt that the flower demon would coerce him to do some bold and courageous things with her in the future. But thinking about it, although the risk was big, the benefits, thinking of this, Qin Feng felt that being threatened by the flower demon wasn't a bad thing. The two of them began to search in the medicinal garden. Qin Feng had collected all the medicinal herbs for the bone-strengthening pill, and the flower demon's Shinkoin bag was also filled with a lot. Fortunately, the medicinal garden was very big and there were many varieties. Even if there were a few, it shouldn't be discovered. You don't want the bone-strengthening pills herbs? Qin Feng was surprised. My master will give me that kind of pill sooner or later. Why would I use such a despicable method like stealing it? Flower demon asked back. After a short pause, she said, but that old man forbade me from taking the bone-strengthening pill. I don't know what that means. Qin Feng rolled his eyes. Not to mention that your Chinkoin bag is full. What's with the juice on your lips? Picked up? However, he did not dare to block them. After all, he still needed their help. Qin Feng laughed and said, Sister Genie, we agreed that I will bring you in. You'll find a way to help me refine the bone-strengthening Dan. This sister will take care of it. Flower Demon patted her chest and proudly said, I know a level 4 spirit alchemist who has a very high success rate in refining the bone-strengthening Dan. Moreover, he happens to be your master's sworn enemy. As long as I say that the pill was stolen from your master, he will definitely jump up in joy. Hearing this, Qin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he got the bone-strengthening Dan, plus a month of precipitation, he had a 70 to 80% chance of breaking through to the middle stage of the bone-strengthening realm. The two of them carefully returned to the soaring phoenix courtyard. Little cutie, our cooperation is really seamless. I look forward to our next cooperation. As long as the bone-strengthening Dan is in our hands, we can talk about anything. Qin Feng collected all the medicinal herbs and gave them to Flower Demon. The two of them separated. After that, they still maintained their original attitude. They didn't like each other in front of outsiders. There was no news about them stealing the bone-strengthening Dan. A week later, Flower Demon sent the bone-strengthening Dan over. She smiled and asked, Little cutie, when are we going to do something big again? Half a month of free time for the new students is up. Today I have to report to the two masters. We will go again when we have time. Qin Feng said perfunctorily. What a joke. How could it be possible to commit a crime in less than a week? If you walk by the river, sooner or later your shoes will be wet. Qin Feng made up his mind. Unless he needed it, he would not do this kind of thing no matter what. Even if he died, he would find a reason to refuse. In the morning, he went to Gu Jiulai's place to report. He also wanted to learn some powerful moves, but just as Gong Xiaoxi and the others had said, these old fellows' teachings were very rigid. They insisted that he had to learn from the beginning, explaining the various aspects of the early stage of cultivation. However, in the afternoon, Qin Feng listened to the explanation of spiritual power with great interest. The main reason was that he didn't know much about spiritual power. He needed to strengthen his knowledge in this area. Master, how is the spiritual dual cultivation formation? Qin Feng asked while rubbing his hands. Melt today's one first. After a while, I will explain to you the biggest taboo of spiritual masters, the spiritual outer coffin, Ying Yuan said. Master, can I really not condense the spiritual outer coffin? Qin Feng asked. This was the most important thing. After all, he condensed the spiritual outer coffin. You can't. The spiritual outer coffin is a fatal poison. Ying Yuan sternly warned. There may be spiritual outer coffin condensation methods in the outside world, but they are all incomplete. It is even more deadly. Little Feng, you must not condense it. But the spiritual outer coffin has the effect of increasing combat power. Can I really not do it? Qin Feng asked. When we talk about this in the future, I will explain it to you. Qin Feng wanted to ask if there were any other levels of spiritual outer coffin besides red, purple, and blue. However, Ying Yuan clearly didn't want to say more. He only reminded, don't bite off more than you can chew. There are many things to pay attention to in spiritual power. You must understand them one by one. Don't chase after speed. Left with no choice, Qin Feng could only give up on asking. The Sky Hall's classes were much easier than the classes of the three major classes. It was common to have a class every 3 to 5 days, unlike the students of the three major classes who had classes every day. During this time, Qin Feng had been accumulating spiritual power bit by bit. However, without the help of the 100 Tribulations heaven-devouring art, the progress was much slower. If I can devour the blood and qi of spiritual beasts, it should be able to speed up my cultivation. Qin Feng stroked his chin and pondered. However, most of the spiritual beasts in the academy were domesticated and had owners. He didn't dare to devour them casually. For example, the flower demon's little white. Of course, it wasn't hers. She had stolen it from another teacher to show off. I wonder how much the 100 Tribulations heaven-devouring art has improved after the last tribulation. During this time, he couldn't find anything to devour. This made Qin Feng feel very helpless. He wasn't used to this kind of step-by-step cultivation. Lying on the roof and looking at the waning moon in the sky, Qin Feng took out the jade pendant in front of his chest and was slightly lost in thought. This was something his mother had left for him. Qin Feng didn't know if his mother's appearance when he condensed the spiritual outer coffin had anything to do with this jade pendant. However, he had tried many times, using both spiritual power and mental power, but the jade pendant didn't react. "Mother, what exactly is your clan?" Qin Feng was puzzled. Although there was no reaction no matter how he tried, Qin Feng felt that it was related to this jade pendant. After all, this was the only thing that could be related to his mother. "No matter what, Mother, I will look for you in the future and let you reunite with Father," Qin Feng thought to himself as he held the jade pendant. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat as he felt a warm feeling in his palm. He lowered his head and focused his gaze. The jade pendant was actually glowing. It was very weak and had a faint blue halo. Chapter 143. Mysterious old man Qin Feng stared at the jade pendant and then looked to the south. He could feel that the faint summoning was coming from the south. That's the burial area of St. Ryuan. Qin Feng was stunned. The burial district was a forbidden area in the St. Ryuan. All the experts of the St. Ryuan were buried there. Some powerful seniors would enter the burial district when they were nearing the end of their lives to find a place for themselves to rest. It was even said that some experts who had left the St. Ryuan and returned to the primitive lands would choose to be buried here before they died. Qin Feng did not know why this was the case, but he knew that the St. Ryuan placed great importance on this place. Otherwise, it would not have been listed as a forbidden area. Unless it was a special memorial period, no one was allowed to enter or leave this place. Qin Feng hesitated for a moment before he got up and left. He avoided the eyes of some people and approached the Tibetan area. This was a barren land that was covered in desolation as far as the eye could see. Gloomy winds coiled about while vegetation was sparse and practically non-existent, and the ground was dry and cracked, causing it to reveal a dark black color. Lin Gu stood at the top of a mountain, looking at the burial ground, and then at the jade pendant, which was glowing more and more brightly. He hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and leaped down the mountain toward the burial ground. The fog was so thick that they could only see a corner of the area. When they got closer, they could even hear the whistling sound of wind tearing through the air. It was as if there were ghosts screaming, wailing, and howling, which made people's hearts tremble. What is this place? Qin Feng felt his hair stand on end. He didn't expect there to be such a place in the solemn and sacred St. Ryuan. Even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't dare to rashly enter such a place, no matter how curious he was. He decisively left the place. Damn it, it was too horrifying. He thought that the burial area was just a cemetery, but he didn't expect it to be like this. The next day, Qin Feng still couldn't resist the temptation. At dusk, he secretly came here again and peeked at this place from afar. However, what shocked him was that this place was actually very peaceful. Tombstones stood tall, and there was no trace of the horrifying scene from last night. What happened? Qin Feng hesitated for a moment before approaching this place. He was sure that this was the place he had come last night, but it was completely different. The burial area was completely calm, and it even emanated a sense of holiness and dignity. The tombstones were all very clean and spotless. As he neared, the jade pendant reacted again. Qin Feng struggled internally for a long time before finally deciding to enter the burial grounds. Stepping on a loose soil, Qin Feng walked through the burial area, looking at the tombstones on both sides. Each one recorded the life of a Saint Ruin expert. At sunset, the bright red light shone down. The entire graveyard was quiet, without a single sound. The afterglow of a setting sun rendered this place solemn and somewhat strange. Qin Feng searched here. What exactly was it that caused the jade pendant to react so strangely? However, the summoning feeling only stopped here, and there was no precise location. Thus, he couldn't find anything at present. Suddenly, his gaze was attracted by a wordless tombstone. This tombstone was relatively taller and was very clean. It was just that there was no introduction on it, not even a name. This caused Qin Feng to be extremely curious. Those buried here were all Saint Ruin experts or experts who had soared out of this place. They were revered by the people. So how could there be no name? Sigh. Just as Qin Feng was about to take a closer look at the tombstone, an age sigh suddenly rang out. He was immediately stunned. Cold sweat soaked his clothes, and his whole body felt cold as if he had fallen into an ice house. He turned his head with great difficulty and saw that not far from him, on a small path, an old man with tattered clothes and messy hair was walking over with a walking stick. His pair of turbid eyes were staring at him. Qin Feng's heart trembled, as if he was being stared at by a dead person. "Senior, I just accidentally came here. Please forgive me. I will leave now." Qin Feng cupped his hands and was about to leave. This tomb keeper made him uneasy, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. "You didn't accidentally come here, did you? Didn't you come here last night to scout?" The old man smiled at Qin Feng, revealing a mouthful of old yellow teeth. Qin Feng's heart trembled. Last night, he was discovered by this old man. That's not right. He used the spiritual power of the purple alms bowl, and in the darkness of the night, who could perceive him? This old man. Qin Feng's heart sank. This old man was definitely an unimaginably terrifying existence. "Since you are here, then accompany me for a stroll." The old man leaned on his walking stick and slowly walked. From time to time, he would tell him about the glorious deeds of some of the great figures buried here. When he reached the wordless tombstone, the old man's footsteps paused and actually bowed respectfully to the tombstone. "Senior, this is?" Qin Feng asked. He was really curious as to why the old man would do such a thing to the tombstone. The old man faintly smiled and lightly tapped Qin Feng's head with his walking stick. He smiled and said, "Little guy, why did you come here?" Qin Feng's body stiffened. He was frightened by the old man's smile and felt uncomfortable all over. He whispered, "Curious. Just curious?" The old man smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have no evil intentions towards you. If I wanted to kill you, you shouldn't have any power to resist." Hearing this, Qin Feng was slightly relieved. That's right, this old man's cultivation was unpredictable. If he really wanted to make a move, 10 of him added together wouldn't be enough to defeat him. Other than being curious, I also feel that there's something unusual about this place. As for what's unusual about it, I can't tell, Qin Feng said. He held back and didn't tell him about the jade pendant. The old man stared at him without blinking. After a while, he shook his head and smiled. He didn't say anything else and walked past the tombstone. When he walked out of the tombstone, the old man smiled and said, "Little guy, let's go." Qin Feng felt like he was being pardoned. He was about to fly away, but at this time, a curtain of light suddenly enveloped him. "Senior, what are you doing?" Qin Feng was shocked. "You and I meeting here can be considered fate. Today, I will teach you a technique." The old man smiled. He pointed his finger. An array of light rushed into Qin Feng's mind. Divine Emperor's might. Qin Feng's heart and soul trembled as he felt an incomparably terrifying pressure. Although it was only for an instant, that supreme might that transcended everything caused him to tremble in fear. "Senior, are you teaching me a technique?" Qin Feng didn't understand. He asked why. The old man smiled and said, "Maybe I can see another world from you." Qin Feng smiled unnaturally. He nodded and left. After turning a corner, he immediately ran back to the soaring phoenix courtyard to check his body. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he carefully tried to comprehend the technique in his mind. Divine Emperor's might. Qin Feng muttered. His intuition told him that this thing was not simple. Could it be that the old man really met me because of fate? Qin Feng didn't believe it. This old man always gave him an uncomfortable feeling, making him feel indescribably uneasy, especially that smile. Every time he saw it, he couldn't help but feel terrified. I can't go to that place. In the room, Qin Feng cultivated the Divine Emperor's might. This was a strange technique that needed to be used through spiritual energy. The Divine Emperor's might would descend and increase one's battle strength. Chapter 144. Inside the crystal coffin, in just a few breaths, his aura had risen to the middle stage of bone strengthening, which shocked Qin Feng. This Divine Emperor's might was too heaven-defying. It could actually forcibly increase one's strength. But soon, his aura weakened, and at the same time, his body was also somewhat weak. This state could not be maintained for too long. Qin Feng thought it was because he had just learned this technique and could not maintain it, so he did not pay it much mind. But for 3 days, he was still like this. His strength could only be maintained for a few breaths, not for long. At this time, Qin Feng realized that there was a problem with the Divine Emperor's might, because when he used it, he vaguely felt that he had missed a part. Most importantly, the more he used the Divine Emperor's might, the weaker his body became. This old man could not have deliberately given me an incomplete technique, forcing me to go there. Suddenly, Qin Feng was horrified as he realized this problem. His face paled. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the reason. He felt unnatural. Was this old man targeting him? The more he practiced this technique, the weaker he became. And in the end, he had no choice but to ask for guidance. Looking at the moonlight outside the window, Qin Feng's expression was uncertain. In the end, he gritted his teeth and walked towards the burial district. He did not know what the old man was plotting, but he was sure that he would not harm him in a short time. Moreover, there was a problem with his body, so he had to solve it. Coming here again, Qin Feng was dumbfounded. Why was it the same situation as that day again? The burial ground was shrouded in fog, chilly winds howled, and the howls of Een rang out incessantly. The entire burial ground was like hell on earth, emitting a bone-piercing chill. "I'll come back in the morning," Qin Feng muttered, turned around and left. "Little guy, you're here again. Come in and sit." Suddenly, the old man's voice sounded. Qin Feng's body stiffened, and his smile was ugly. Pointing at the thatched cottage not far away, he said, "Old senior, let's go to your place to talk. With a heart, a dragon's pool or a tiger's den is a home. Without a heart, a golden hall is just a cage." The old man chuckled. "Come in." Qin Feng braced himself and walked into the burial area. As soon as he entered, he felt a bone-chilling cold, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Not far away, the old man sat in front of the tombstone and smiled at him. His 2 rows of yellow teeth were like the mouth of a malicious spirit in the darkness, about to devour him. Qin Feng swallowed his saliva and carefully approached him. He asked, "Senior, is there a problem with the technique you taught me?" Seeing him like that, the old man smiled and said, "I've said it before, I have no ill intentions towards you. You don't have to be afraid." Qin Feng pursed his lips. Just based on that smile of yours, who wouldn't be scared half to death? However, he believed that the old man wouldn't harm him. It was just that he was still instinctively afraid of him. "Since you have discovered the problem with the Divine Emperor's aura, you should know my intention." The old man stared at Qin Feng and said with a smile, "Old man, can you not smile at me?" Qin Feng said. He really couldn't stand this kind of smile. As the saying goes, a smile is the best bridge for communication. The old man said, "Who smiles like you?" Qin Feng cursed in his heart. He gathered his courage and asked, "Senior, what are you trying to do?" I see hope in you. The old man waved his hand at Qin Feng, indicating for him to sit down beside him. The corner of Qin Feng's eyes twitched. He crawled to the old man's side and sat down. I've been guarding this cemetery all by myself, year after year. I've long forgotten if I'm still alive, if I'm one of the people buried underground. The old man chuckled and said, After meeting you, I seem to have realized that I'm still alive. Qin Feng pursed his lips. Although the burial area was a forbidden area and people rarely came here, there would be a sacrifice every few years. It wasn't like he didn't know about it. Was there a need to make it sound so tragic? Old man, let's not talk in riddles. Just tell me what your intention is. Qin Feng said. The old man gazed at the ground. After a moment of silence, he suddenly stood up and said, The divine emperor's might is not my method. If you want to complete it, then follow me. With that, the old man walked toward the depths of the burial area with his walking stick. Qin Feng hesitated for a moment. Then, he clenched his teeth and followed. In the end, they stopped in front of the wordless monument. The old man pointed at it randomly. Suddenly, the wordless monument emitted a faint light. A different kind of aura pervaded the air. At the same time, the jade pendant on Qin Feng's chest glowed. In the end, it actually resonated with the wordless monument. Qin Feng subconsciously covered his chest. He was worried that the old man would find out. The old man looked at him with a faint smile. Qin Feng's heart trembled. Could it be that this old man found out? He pretended to be calm and asked, The divine emperor's might is recorded on the wordless monument? The old man looked at Qin Feng for a moment. Then he nodded and said, You can say that. Boom. A crack suddenly appeared under the wordless monument. Resplendent blue light burst out and dyed the place with colorful lights. Qin Feng was dumbfounded. What's going on? As the light faded, a crystal-like coffin appeared. Qin Feng was shocked. Why was this crystal coffin so similar to his spiritual coffin? Old man, what is this? Who is buried in it? He asked. His heart was burning. The old man didn't say anything. He just stared at the crystal coffin with a sincere expression. He was silent. Qin Feng didn't dare to say anything either. He also stared at the crystal coffin. Suddenly, the old man said, Can you help me take something out of the coffin? Qin Feng was surprised. Help you? If you can't do it, how can I? Old man, you're making things difficult for me. Qin Feng said. The old man shook his head and smiled. You could try. Qin Feng was silent for a moment. He guessed that this might be the old man's intention. He gritted his teeth and walked forward. External force is useless on the coffin. Try using your spiritual power. Qin Feng nodded. His spiritual power surged out and attached to the coffin lid. He exerted force, but the coffin didn't move at all. At this moment, Qin Feng's heart trembled. When the spiritual coffin was attached to the coffin, he actually felt a familiar aura. It seemed to be inextricably linked to him. His heart trembled, and his voice trembled. Old man, is the person buried here male or female? Male, the old man said. Hearing this, Qin Feng secretly sighed in relief. He had thought that this was his mother's tomb. Now it seemed that he had worried too much. However, he was very curious. Why did he feel that familiar aura? Crystal coffin, spiritual coffin. Suddenly, his heart trembled. Could it be that the person buried here was from his mother's clan? He couldn't be blamed for thinking that. His spiritual coffin was condensed with his mother's help. Moreover, his spiritual coffin was similar to the coffin here. There was also that familiar aura. He couldn't help but think in that direction. If this really is from my mother's clan. Qin Feng's heart chilled. This old man wanted the thing in the coffin. He couldn't help him no matter what. Qin Feng suppressed the spiritual power in the spiritual coffin for a long time. In the end, he shook his head and said, No, I can't open it. Hearing this, the old man looked regretful. Chapter 145. Long, the old man stretched out his hand and pointed at the wordless steel. A light spot lit up and shot into Qin Feng's forehead. This is the complete power of the divine emperor. Qin Feng nodded. He only needed to circulate it a little, and he could sense that some of the previous inadequacies or places that he felt were wrong had all been filled up. Thank you for your help, Senior. Qin Feng cupped his hands. The old man shook his head and smiled. This is fate between you and me. Perhaps it was the arrangement of the heavens that you were able to come here. Only you can open this coffin. Elder, your words are a little mysterious. In response to Qin Feng's words, the old man smiled faintly and shook his head. His voice was soft and ethereal. Who has the ability to turn the roulette of fate? There are some things that you can't do even if you don't want to. When that moment comes, everything is already destined. The old man's mysterious words made Qin Feng curl his lips. No matter how mysterious you pretend to be, I won't care about you anymore. Anyway, I've already obtained the Divine Emperor's prestige. I won't come back here, even if you beat me to death. I have another method. I don't know if you want to learn it. The old man smiled. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows and said, Don't tell me it's another incomplete version of the Divine Emperor's might that requires me to complete it. This is the complete set. Consider it my repayment for your help earlier. The old man smiled and pointed out with his finger again. The light shot into Qin Feng's forehead. Qin Feng roughly scanned through the list and immediately gasped. This is really King overbearing. Elder, this is suddenly his skin tightened. His surroundings were empty, and the old man was nowhere to be seen. Let's go. We will meet again in the future. The old voice came from nowhere. Qin Feng shuddered and hurriedly left this place. We'll meet again. It's best if we never meet again. Qin Feng had some psychological trauma towards this old man, even though he had helped him a lot. Time passed quietly, and the day of the battle with Chou Long gradually approached. At this time, Qin Feng swallowed the bone-strengthening pill and attacked the middle stage of the bone-strengthening realm. After daybreak, he entered the middle stage of the bone-strengthening stage as he wished. However, he was still a bit weak because he hadn't settled down deep enough in the early stage of the bone-strengthening stage. Even though the bone-strengthening pill was powerful enough, there were still flaws. This caused Qin Feng to be secretly worried. If this Chou Long was not too strong, he would not be able to forcefully break through like this. It seems that I need to find a way to perfectly remove this flaw. Qin Feng sighed. He had never felt so inadequate when breaking through before, and this made him attach great importance to it. However, this was a matter for the future. Today, there were more important things to do. He arrived at the Death Corner fighting ring. This was the only place in the St. Ryu Inn that did not have any restrictions. Once one stepped into the Death Corner fighting ring, it meant that one's life and death would not matter. At this time, there were already many people here. After all, the news of Qin Feng challenging Chou Long had already spread like wildfire. Many people wanted to see just how strong this guy who had just entered the academy a month ago was. He actually dared to challenge a veteran expert. The Tang sect, Beauty Gang, and Madman Society's upper echelons were all present. Qin Feng also saw Ouyang Shi, Zhao Qi, and Fan Miao Miao among the Beauty Gang's seats. Their faces were filled with deep worry. In addition, Qin Feng also saw Fushimi, Xiao Yun, Su Qin, and others in the crowd. They had also joined some sections. When they looked at him, they were also filled with worry. Hey, if you really can't beat him, hurry up and surrender. Your potential is much greater than his. There's no need to fight to the death. Mo Feng said, Once I'm in the Death Corner fighting ring, do I still have control over my life and death? Qin Feng shook his head. As long as you surrender, this Chou Long won't dare to kill you. Looking at the suspicious Qin Feng, Qian Yin faintly smiled and said, The higher-ups have already told us that Chou Long can't kill you. Of course, you also can't rely on this point to be unreasonable. If you can't beat him, you must surrender. After all, there are rules here that cannot be changed because of you. Qin Feng frowned. Why did these two people not have a good opinion of him? He asked, Chou Long is only at the peak of the late stage of the bone-strengthened realm. Is he really that strong? He had already killed countless people one level higher than him. He was already at the mid-stage of the bone-strengthened realm. Facing Chou Long shouldn't be too difficult. You don't understand the bone-strengthened realm at all. Mo Feng shook his head and seriously said, The bone-strengthened realm is where the body's bones are strong. This is especially true for the late stage of the bone-strengthened realm, where one is close to the spirit detecting realm. In other words, the difference between the late stage of the bone-strengthened realm is not any less than the difference between the early stage and the mid-stage. For example, Cho Long and I are both at the late stage of the bone-strengthened realm, but he has reached the peak. This means that he has strengthened the bones of his entire body. As for me, I am also at the late stage, but I have only strengthened the bones of my 4 limbs. Against him, at most, it would be 50-50. As a disciple of the Sky Palace, which disciple doesn't have the strength to fight above their level? But even though we are both at the late stage, we are not his match. This shows how huge the difference between the 2 realms is. Hearing this, Qin Feng's expression slightly changed. He only had a vague idea of the late stage of the bone-strengthened realm. He didn't expect there to be so many profound principles. It seems that he would need to learn more about this in the future. At this moment, Cho Long had already jumped onto the life and death arena. He looked at Qin Feng provocatively with a mocking smile. Qin Feng sneered and also jumped onto the arena. Since you're going to lose anyway, just surrender now so that I don't have to make a move. Cho Long sneered. Qin Feng curled his lips. Only he could use this kind of inferior method of provocation. Seeing him like this, Cho Long was happy. Qin Feng's disdain was exactly what he wanted. He sneered and said, "Hurry up and surrender. Otherwise, when we start fighting later, I reckon you won't even be able to shout the word surrender. Don't try to provoke me. Aren't you afraid that if I surrender, you won't have a chance to kill me?" Qin Feng sneered. Cho Long's expression gradually darkened, and his eyes darkened. "Don't worry, you won't have a chance, and you don't have the qualifications for me to shout the word surrender. Little cutie, your ability to talk big is still as elegant as ever." Flower Demon put her hands on her waist and said to Cho Long, "Big Dragon's son, hurry up and step on him." Qin Feng's face turned red. He really wanted to beat the Flower Demon up. Calling him little cutie in public, no man could stand it, but calling him that in private was fine. Sure enough, there was stifled laughter from the crowd. Everyone was trying their best to hold it in, and their faces turned red. "Humph!" Cho Long coldly snorted. Killing intent suddenly appeared in his eyes as he charged towards Qin Feng. Accompanied by the flickering of lightning, he grabbed out with his hand. Such a tyrannical and domineering attack. His arrogant and wanton attitude was completely displayed. Qin Feng's body shook, and his spiritual energy burst out. His spiritual energy adhered to his fist, and he punched out. Boom! As the fist and palm collided, Cho Long's body shook, and Qin Feng flew out, electric arcs curling around his body. He was shocked, and his body was numb from the shock. He was too familiar with this feeling, as he had been electrocuted by Thunderbolt many times before. Cho Long seemed to be disdainful, but his attack was very fierce. He did not hold back, and wanted to end Qin Feng in one move, not giving him a chance to surrender. However, he underestimated Qin Feng. According to the original plan, he should have used this opportunity to rush over, but he was shocked by Qin Feng and could not launch a fatal attack. Taking advantage of this gap, Qin Feng also recovered. Middle stage of bone strengthening, it seems that I underestimated you. Chapter 146. Heaven-devouring finger shows its power against Qin Feng, pushed out with both hands. The spiritual power in his right hand roared out, while the spiritual power in his left hand turned into a spear and shot out. Cho Long roared and punched out with both fists. One fist dispersed the spiritual power, and the other struck the spiritual spear. He used his tyrannical stance to scatter Qin Feng's 2 attacks. His figure only trembled slightly before he charged over once again. However, just as he was 3 meters away from Qin Feng, a huge water ball suddenly appeared and enveloped the 2 of them. Qin Feng used the sky water domain to trap Cho Long. Everyone looked at this scene nervously. At that time, the Flower Demon had suffered from this move and was instantly subdued by Qin Feng. When the sky water domain was activated, Qin Feng rushed over. His spiritual energy and spiritual energy moved at the same time, bombarding Cho Long. In the water, he was able to move freely, but the others were stuck in the mud and their movements were limited. For a moment, Cholong was forced back by Qin Feng's bombardment. He roared and attacked with all his might. But in the water, the resistance was too great. His attacks were slowed down by a lot, and he couldn't stop Qin Feng at all. Seeing this, he quickly retreated, wanting to leave the sky water area. However, every time he took a step back, Qin Feng would take a step forward, not giving him a chance to leave. The heavenly water domain could only be used in a surprise attack. Once it was attacked from the outside, it would instantly disperse. Qin Feng channeled the power of water, and streams of water snakes coiled around Cholong's body, further sealing his mobility. At the same time, his mental energy and water elemental energy transformed into sharp weapons that charged forward madly. Within the water ball, a hint of scarlet blossomed. Then, more and more red appeared. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. It was impossible for Cholong to be defeated like this. This guy's move is really weird. Even I can't think of a way to get out of it. Mo Feng said with a serious expression. That day, he had seen Qin Feng use this move, instantly making the Flower Demon lose her ability to fight. Flower Demon, Gong Xiaoxi, Tang Ran, Mo Feng, Qian Yin, and the other experts were all shocked. For people of similar strength, this move was simply unsolvable. Damn it, this DeLongzi is too stupid. He fell for it just like that. Seeing that Qin Feng had the upper hand, Flower Demon said angrily, "This move can be easily broken from the outside. Don't underestimate Cholong. I heard that he is already trying to break through to the spirit-detecting realm," Gong Xiaoxi said. Although Qin Feng's move is powerful, it probably won't be able to trap Cholong. In the field, the water ball moved quickly. The water inside rippled and blood spurted out. In a short period of time, Cholong had more than a dozen wounds on his body. His face flushed red, and he suddenly roared. A shocking wave of spirit energy spread out from his body, causing the water ball to ripple violently. Qin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he quickly retreated. At the same time, the water ball shattered and water splashed out. He reached out and clenched his hand. Countless water droplets gathered, turning into a huge sailor, and sent Cholong flying. Cholong roared. Being defeated again and again made him feel humiliated. He coldly stared at Qin Feng, and his spirit energy crazily spread out. Qin Feng took a deep breath, and his spirit energy gushed out from his mind, forming the battle line array. Today, I will let you see the difference between us. It is not something that can be made up for by your unorthodox methods. Cholong fiercely stared at Qin Feng. He stretched out his hand, and a spirit energy hand wrapped in arcs of lightning shot out. Earth Art Battle Technique, Thunder Suppression Hand. Qin Feng stood in the middle of the battle line array, and his spirit energy followed the trajectory and rushed out. Boom! The sky rippled, and the spirit energy hand paused for a moment. It scattered the spirit energy and then continued to grab Qin Feng. Seeing this, Qin Feng sighed inwardly. The power of spirit energy alone was still not enough to fight against Cholong. Even if he used the spirit array, the difference was too great. He extracted a trace of spirit energy from the spirit outer coffin, strengthened it by the battle line array, and fiercely attacked. Only then did he defeat the spirit energy hand. Cholong was stunned, and then his eyes became even more gloomy. He fiercely attacked, and the battle line array trembled violently. Qin Feng staggered, and soon he would not be able to maintain the battle line array. Seeing this, everyone secretly shook their heads. It seemed that the little cutie was going to lose. Boom! With a muffled sound, the battle line array shattered. Cholong's face was ferocious, and on his fist, astral wind whistled, and lightning curled around it. He blasted towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng's expression was calm, and his hands drew a mysterious trajectory, accompanied by specks of spirit energy. "Go to hell!" Cholong shouted and punched out. A lightning fist tore through the air, whistling out. Earth Art Battle Technique. Tyrant Dragon Fist. Qin Feng was not flustered and slowly pushed out his hands. Spirit energy gathered, forming a spirit energy shield. Earth Art Battle Technique, Wind Spirit Barrier. Boom! The lightning fist fiercely hit the wind spirit barrier, and both sides were in a stalemate for a moment. The wind spirit barrier shattered, and at the same time, a sailor reached out and grabbed the lightning fist. In the end, the two dissipated at the same time, and Qin Feng was forced to retreat. It still doesn't work. Qin Feng sighed. Gong Xiaoxi's wind spirit barrier was of a higher level than the Tyrant Dragon Fist, but the difference was too great, and he could not resist it. Let's see how many more trump cards you have. Chou Long sneered and punched out another Tyrant Dragon Fist. Qin Feng gritted his teeth, and at the same time, used the Wind Spirit Barrier and another Earth Art Battle Technique, Air Splitting Palm, to resist the Tyrant Dragon Fist. After continuously using big moves, the spirit energy in his body was faintly running out. Sensing Qin Feng's spirit energy fluctuation, Chou Long was happy, and his killing intent grew. He clenched his fists, and his spirit energy surged. This time, he wanted to kill Qin Feng. Sensing his killing intent, Qin Feng's expression was still calm, and his spirit energy was restrained. Why is this guy still not admitting defeat? Chou Long has been preparing for this attack for so long, and it's definitely his strongest attack. Mo Feng rubbed his hands anxiously. Ouyang Shi, Zhao Qi, and the others were also very anxious, and even reminded Qin Feng. However, Qin Feng did not move, and his eyes were fixed on Chou Long. At this moment, the spirit energy on the latter's fists had gathered to a certain extent, and an arc of lightning shot out, and an extremely fierce fluctuation slowly spread out. Double Tyrant Dragon Fist. At a certain moment, Chou Long shouted and punched out with both fists. Two lightning fists attacked Qin Feng. Divine Emperor's Might. Qin Feng shouted, and the aura around him skyrocketed. Under countless shocked gazes, he instantly broke through to the late stage of the bone-strengthening realm. What's going on? How did his strength suddenly increase so much? Everyone was puzzled and looked at him in shock. Qin Feng slowly stretched out his index finger, and endless spirit energy crazily gathered at his fingertip. Heaven-devouring finger. In an instant, the sky seemed to darken, and then an extremely violent aura crazily spread out, as if it was going to tear the sky. Everyone's heart palpitated, and they felt a terrifying fluctuation on his fingertip that made their souls tremble. Mo Feng, Qian Yin, Gong Xiaoxi, and the rest of the Heavenly Palace's disciples, as well as other experts, turned pale and stared at Qin Feng, dumbfounded. It was hard to imagine how he could perform such a terrifying attack. A ray of light shot out from Qin Feng's index finger. It was only half of the ray, but it had a terrifying fluctuation that made everyone present change their expressions. Rip, the air was torn apart, and the ray of light shot out, instantly piercing through the first lightning fist, and then the second one. After a short stalemate, the second lightning fist also shattered, and the remaining force of the ray of light directly hit Chou Long, who could not dodge in time. Chou Long's chest directly caved in, and blood spurted out crazily. He was sent flying and heavily hit the ground and fainted. Chapter 147. Be stripped of one's identity. The Death Corner fighting arena was completely silent. Everyone stared blankly at Qin Feng on the stage as a wave of shock surged out from their souls. Gulp! Someone couldn't help but gulp as his face turned pale. Little Cutie had defeated Chou Long. How is this possible? Chou Long was a veteran expert who had long since entered the late stage of the bone-strengthening realm. He even had the qualifications to attack the spirit-detecting realm. In the academy, there were not many students who could fight with him. However, he was defeated just like that. He was defeated by a new student who had only been in school for a little over a month. This unrealistic scene abruptly appeared in front of everyone's eyes, causing their hearts to contract. Even the Sky Palace's disciples were shocked. If they were in Qin Feng's place, none of them would be able to withstand it. Looks like he was still holding back on us, the flower demon muttered softly. Gong Xiaoxi and Tang Rant's expressions were unnatural. Back then, Qin Feng had been beaten to the ground by them. If he had used this move, who could have stopped him? After confirming that Chou Long had fainted, Qin Feng could not hold on any longer. He knelt down on one knee. The after effects of the divine emperor's might and the price of the sky devouring finger made him feel extremely weak. It was only by holding on to his last breath that he did not collapse. Little Cutie defeated Chou Long, Little Cutie won. Instantly, cheers filled the sky and resonated through the clouds. When countless people looked at Qin Feng, their eyes were filled with reverence. In a pavilion far away, Ying Yuan and Gu Jilai looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. This kid has quite a lot of tricks up his sleeves. The power of that finger is unfathomable. Gu Jilai shook his head and smiled. Seems like he had some fortuitous encounters before entering the academy. It said that he was once chased into the Nine Spirits mountain range. Looks like he had a fortuitous encounter, Ying Yuan said. That type of fortuitous encounter, it's fine if we don't want it. Gu Jiolai waved his hand. When they thought about that type of place, even they felt their hearts tremble. Although he was lucky to be able to walk out alive, without extraordinary courage, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to walk out alive. Yeah, this kid is pretty good. Gu Jiolai nodded, and then said helplessly, it's just that calling him Little Cutie doesn't suit the situation. I'm very curious. Why does he like others to call him that? Although he is indeed young, he doesn't need to pretend to be so young. Grand Elder Ying's face twitched. He was disgusted by this title. After recovering some of his strength, Qin Feng stood up. This time, when he used the heaven-devouring finger, he didn't pass out like he did the other day. He swept his gaze over the Tang sect's members, and all of them averted their gazes. Tang Wei snorted angrily and led the people of the Tang sect to carry the unconscious Chou Long and leave dejectedly. The news of Qin Feng defeating Chou Long quickly spread throughout the academy, immediately causing quite a stir. At this time, the name of Qin Feng also gradually spread throughout the academy. At the same time, the nickname Little Cutie became even more well-known. As for other people's evaluation of him, Qin Feng didn't have the energy to pay attention to it. This time, he had to rest for 5 days to recover. The heaven-devouring finger had a strong backlash for his current stage, and that immature divine emperor's aura also consumed a lot of energy. Although he had completed it in the burial area, this kind of technique was too nature-defying. It was even more terrible than the side effect of being incomplete. Of course, it was also because he hadn't completely mastered it. In short, he had won this battle, but the price he had to pay was huge. Not to mention that he had to rest for 5 days. Just his weak spiritual power was a big problem. His foundation wasn't stable. It might not be obvious in the early stage, but in the later stage, if he wasn't careful, it could lead to a complete collapse. He had to solve this problem now. After recovering, he went to find Gu Jiolai, wanted to get some elixirs from him. Gu Jiolai did give him some, but the effect wasn't big. Gu Jiolai was also very concerned about this matter. He even went to ask some alchemists about it. At this time, Qin Feng knew that he had made a big mistake. The bone-strengthening pill wasn't used like this. The bone-strengthening realm was very special. It was the process of strengthening the bones. Every step was very important. It was related to the strength of the spirit link in the future. When Gu Jiolai found out that he had taken the bone-strengthening pill, he was very angry. Master, you can't blame me. You didn't tell me. Qin Feng felt very wronged. Who knew you had this kind of pill? Gu Jiolai was so angry that his face turned red. If he had known that Qin Feng had the bone-strengthening pill, he would have told him about the many taboos of this realm. You can only take the bone-strengthening pill after you have completed the bone-strengthening realm. If you take it now, your bones will be fixed. Even the strongest bones can't be improved. Gu Jiolai frowned and said, right now, you can only use other pills to remove the effects of the bone-strengthening pill on your bones. As for how far you can go, no one can say for sure. Is it that serious? Qin Feng was surprised and asked, Mo Feng and the others don't know about this. The process of cultivation is about progressing step by step. The students are taught in an orderly manner. Gu Jiulai sighed and said, It's my fault. I should have told you earlier about the taboos of this realm. I originally wanted to wait until you reached the late stage of the bone strengthening realm, but I didn't expect that a wild cultivator like you would have this kind of precious pill. Qin Feng felt a little guilty. He had stolen it. After coming out from Gu Jiulai's place, Qin Feng's mood was very heavy. The drawbacks of the bone strengthening pill were very important to him. It affected his foundation. If he didn't find a way to solve it, it would really bury his strongest bones. Back in his room, Qin Feng tried to contact the Devil Eye. But ever since he fell asleep that day, the Devil Eye didn't have the slightest movement. A few days later, Qin Feng finally understood the terrifying side effects of the bone-strengthening pill. Now, he could feel that there was an indescribable power in his bones that prevented them from developing further. Some things, if you don't personally experience it, you will never know how terrible it is. Now Qin Feng deeply experienced it. He finally understood why his spirit power was always in a state of emptiness. Even if he ate a lot of spirit pills, it couldn't be replenished. Even his spirit power had problems. After all, spirit power came from a body. If there was a problem with the body, spirit power would also be affected. Soon, the news of Qin Feng's body having problems after taking the bone-strengthening pill spread in the school. It made people surprised. At the same time, it was a pity that such a good seedling was wasted like this. On this day, Flower Demon came. For the first time, there was a look of guilt on her face. Master just forbade me to take the bone-strengthening pill. I didn't know there was such a thing. Flower Demon said with her head down. Qin Feng shook his head. He couldn't blame her. After all, she didn't know how to take the bone-strengthening pill. Moreover, she, Mo Feng, and Qianyan all said that their master forbade them to take the bone-strengthening pill. 3 days later, Qin Feng left the soaring Phoenix courtyard. At the same time, his identity as a Sky Hall disciple was stripped, and he was demoted to an Earth Stage student. I really didn't expect the bone-strengthening pill to be so powerful. If I had known earlier, I would have definitely stopped you. Mo Feng said. Qianyan also felt uncomfortable in his heart. Because they didn't know much about the bone-strengthening pill, they didn't know Qin Feng at the same time. Chapter 148. To be locked up, Qin Feng carried some daily necessities to the Earth class dormitory. Due to the large number of people in the Earth class, most of them lived in groups. Many people lived in one room. Moreover, the environment was far from comparable to the soaring Phoenix courtyard. Sigh, how realistic. Qin Feng sighed bitterly. He had been demoted from a high and mighty Heavenly Palace disciple to an Earth Stage student. No matter who it was, they would feel uncomfortable with such a huge difference. However, he couldn't blame the academy. After all, in this place where the strong preyed on the weak, strength was the absolute truth, and potential was the key. He had lost his potential, so he naturally wouldn't receive too much attention. What made him feel gratified was that since ancient times, Ying Yuan's 2 teachers hadn't given up on him. They had told him that they would think of a way to solve this problem, and they had also comforted him. His promotion to Heavenly Palace's disciple was originally an accident. Ordinary Heavenly Palace's disciples had to grow step by step and uncover their potential. Although he had been knocked down, it did not mean that there was no chance for him to rise again. As long as he could resolve the side effects of the bone-strengthening pill, he could still return to being a Heavenly Palace disciple. Qin Feng's heart was slightly warmed by their consolation. However, from their tone, he could tell that they didn't seem to have much hope for this matter. Little guy, how come you have so many treasures on your body? You even have a bone-strengthening pill. This kind of pill is a prohibited item, and very few people use it. That's why we don't pay too much attention to it. However, there is still hope. As long as I don't give up, everything is still possible. I've already made arrangements here. I'll take care of you. Gu Jiulai patted Qin Feng's shoulder, then sighed and turned to leave. Indeed, There was no one who made things difficult for Qin Feng here. Every day, he went to class and lived an ordinary life in the dormitory. However, he knew in his heart that this situation would not last for long. During this time, he had been trying to find a way to solve this problem, but the situation seemed to be getting worse. Sometimes, it was even difficult for him to mobilize his spiritual power and activate his spiritual power. The effect of the bone-strengthening pill not only confined his bones, but also his body. In the end, even Gu Jiulai was surprised. The side effects of the bone-strengthening pill were more serious than he thought. Ying Yuan also felt that it was inconceivable. He even said that it was impossible for it to affect his spiritual power. Boy, tell me honestly, other than the bone-strengthening pill, did you eat anything else? Gu Jiulai asked seriously. Qin Feng's eyes flashed as he shook his head. That's strange. I'll go talk to that old man. Late at night, Qin Feng sneaked out of the dormitory and arrived at the burial district. His face was filled with anger. After Gu Jiu's reminder, he realized that the problem with his body, besides the bone-strengthening pill, was very likely related to that old man. After all, it was after this incident that he had problems. Old man, come out, Qin Feng shouted. He believed that this old man must have used some kind of evil technique to force him to come here. However, to his surprise, there was no response. He walked angrily towards the thatched hut. All of a sudden, an aged voice rang out, causing Qin Feng's body to tremble and his eardrums to ring. Who goes there? How dare you trespass into the burial ground? You are? Qin Feng was shocked. Who is this old man? I've been guarding tombs for many years, but I've never met anyone who dared to trespass into the burial district. The old man coldly snorted. He grabbed Qin Feng with his big hand and flew him away. At this moment, Qin Feng's mind was blank. He couldn't think of anything. His body was cold. The word tomb guard scared him stiff. If this old man was the tomb guard, then who was the old man he met the last 2 times? Thinking of this, Qin Feng's scalp went numb. A chill ran down his spine. He let the old man take him to a big hall. Elder Su, what's going on? A middle-aged man suddenly appeared in the hall and asked in surprise. Vice Principal, this student trespassed into the burial district. Elder Su said, trespassed into the burial district. The vice principal frowned and stared at Qin Feng. After a while, he said in a deep voice, You're that little cutie Qin Feng. Why did you trespass into the forbidden area? Under the pressure of the vice principal, Qin Feng's legs trembled. He almost couldn't stand. I was just curious and wanted to come here to see if there was a way to solve the problem with my body, he said in a low voice. The vice principal stared at him. After a while, he waved his hand and said to Elder Su, Elder Su, you can decide the punishment for trespassing into the burial district. However, since he hasn't been here for long and doesn't know the rules, he can be lenient. Yes. Elder Su nodded and left with Qin Feng. After the two left, an old man suddenly walked out from behind the vice principal. He said in a low voice, his words are half true and half false. The vice principal nodded and said, Investigate this guy's background and see if he's related to the imperial capital. Also, send someone to secretly watch him. The old man nodded. Then, the space rippled and his figure disappeared. After leaving the main hall, Qin Feng was taken by Su Lao to a room completely made of fine iron. The room was pitch black, and there was an inexplicable energy barrier. He couldn't sense anything even if he used his spirit power. He was completely cut off from the outside world. Elder, how long are you going to keep me here for? Qin Feng asked. However, there was no response. No matter how he shouted, there was no sound. In the end, Qin Feng calmed down. He sat cross-legged on the cold iron sheet and thought about his situation. This should be the punishment for trespassing into the burial district. He couldn't get out in a short time. He could use this time to find a way to solve the problem with his body. He used the 100 Calamity heaven-devouring technique again to devour the mysterious energy attached to the bones. However, it was still to no avail. Damn it! Qin Feng punched the iron sheet and cursed. Wasn't the 100 Calamity heaven-devouring technique said to be able to devour all energy? Why couldn't it work now? Qin Feng felt deeply powerless. He used all his means, but still couldn't get rid of the energy on the bones. He called out to the demonic eye again, but there was still no response. No, I have to calm down. I can only rely on myself for this tribulation. Qin Feng forced himself to calm down and relax. He no longer paid attention to this matter. He understood that he would make mistakes if he cared too much. If he couldn't keep a calm mind, he could only be trapped in a dead end. Gradually, Qin Feng seemed to forget about this matter. He didn't know how much time had passed. Maybe 1 day, maybe 10 days, or even longer. He completely calmed down. At this time, he put aside the whole story from the beginning, starting from when he decided to steal the pill until the problem with his body. Back and forth, over and over again. Suddenly, Qin Feng was shocked. He looked inside his body and stared at the mysterious energy on the bones that imprisoned his body like a gray fog. He seemed to have overlooked an important point. Was it really because of the bone-strengthening pill that his body had a problem? This idea horrified him. Was it because of the bone-strengthening pill, or was this pill just a primer? There was a hidden danger before that. Suddenly, his eyes focused. For a moment, he seemed to see a light spot in the gray fog. Chapter 149. Gray beads. Qin Feng's body tensed up as he realized a big problem. The source of all this was not the bone-strengthening pill. Coupled with the doubts from before, Qin Feng concluded that there must be other reasons. Because the side effect of the bone-strengthening pill was only to shape one's bones, making it difficult to improve one's cultivation. Or it could be said that one's potential was not great. So there was no situation where one's spiritual power and spiritual power could not be mobilized. But now his spiritual power and spiritual power would be difficult to mobilize for a long time. Also, why were there crystal dots flashing in the gray fog? Qin Feng's mind flashed, and he thought of one thing. That was the crystal coffin under the wordless monument that night. His body and spiritual power had touched the crystal coffin. Qin Feng did not know if it was related to the crystal coffin, but his intuition told him that his current situation must be related to the burial area. If it was the old man who did it, why didn't he appear that day? Who is he? What is his identity? Why didn't the tomb keeper find him the first 2 times? What's so special about the crystal coffin that he coveted it so much? Qin Feng had too many questions in his heart. He wanted to find the old man and ask him clearly. He felt that the St. Ryuin people should not know that there was such an old man in the burial area. Because he did not understand the reason, plus this matter was related to him, he did not say anything about the old man that day. Guarding here alone, year after year, I don't know if he's still alive. Thinking of the old man's words, Qin Feng's heart chilled. Was the old man's existence related to the burial area? He was reincarnated in someone else's body. Qin Feng felt a headache. He felt that there was a dark cloud over his head. There were too many strange things, too many puzzles. He took a deep breath and gradually calmed down. It was useless to think about it now. Only when he saw the old man, some of the mysteries could be solved one by one. After an unknown period of time, when a ray of light shone in, Qin Feng knew that his punishment was over. After being in the dark for a long time, Qin Feng took a long time to adapt to the bright sun outside. After a while, he asked, "Senior, what is the punishment for breaking into the burial area? Crippling your cultivation, confinement for a month, and then expelled from the school." Senior Su said. Qin Feng was shocked and swallowed his saliva. So serious? What on earth was so important in this place that the St. Ryuin people? He shamelessly stayed here and chatted with the tomb keeper. Senior Su wanted to know something about the burial area. Perhaps Elder Su had been lonely for too long. He didn't chase him away, but he was very cold to him. Qin Feng couldn't get anything out of him and left. From then on, he would come here every day, bringing food, wine, and fruits to please Elder Su. After a long time, Elder Su's attitude towards him was not as cold as before. On this day, the sun was setting. The old man sat alone at the top of the mountain, drinking wine and looking at the red sun in the sky, lost in thought. "Old Senior, I'm leaving." Qin Feng came over to bid farewell. "Little fellow." Old man Su turned his head and beckoned to Qin Feng. "Come over and have a seat." Is. He walked over and sat next to Senior Su. "What do you see?" The old man pointed at the red sun in the sky and asked. "The sun, the burning clouds." Qin Feng looked for a while and said, "What else?" Qin Feng thought for a while, then whispered, "Heroes past their prime, blood stains the horizon." Senior Su was surprised, then turned to look at him. After a while, he said, "You're so young, yet you're able to see such a scene." Qin Feng smiled awkwardly. "Young man, I've heard about you. I don't know why you're so interested in the burial area, but I've been a tomb keeper for so many years. I have my own principles and bottom line. I know what I can say and what I can't. I can only tell you that the burial area is very mysterious. Even the school doesn't know what's here. No matter what you want to do, I advise you to keep your curiosity to yourself. There are some things that you can't know right now." Senior Su said. Qin Feng stayed silent for a while, then whispered, "Senior, why is there such a big contrast between the day and night in the burial area? Are there any living people in there?" Senior Su's expression changed and asked in a low voice, "You've been here before? What did you see?" "I've never been here before, but I've heard some things about the burial area from other sources." Qin Feng hurriedly waved his hand and said with a guilty conscience, "Besides, you've been guarding this place. How could I escape your senses?" Hearing that, Senior Su's expression softened and nodded. "That's true. I can sense anyone who comes to the burial area." Qin Feng was shocked. Sure enough, he was able to avoid Senior Su's senses twice because of that mysterious old man. After chatting for a while, Qin Feng couldn't get any more information about the burial area, so he stood up and left. He didn't return to the dorm, but went out of the courtyard. He hadn't used the 100 Calamity heaven-devouring art for a few months. Tonight, he suddenly wanted to devour a few spirit beasts and see if he could trigger the gray mist on his bones by devouring energy from the outside world. He went to the forest outside and hibernated until he felt that he could use his spiritual and mental power again. Then, he went to hunt a few early rank 3 spirit beasts. Looking at the corpses of the 3 spirit beasts, Qin Feng frowned. His situation wasn't good. 2/3 of the time, every day, he couldn't use his spiritual and mental power. After so many days, he had figured out some patterns. In the early morning, he could use his spiritual power for 2 hours. In the afternoon, he could use his spiritual power for 4 hours. Then it was now 2 hours before midnight. He could only use his spiritual power during these few hours. The rest of the time, he was in a sealed state. This situation was very dangerous. What if something unexpected happened? Qin Feng sighed and used his devouring power to devour the spirit beast's blood. Then he tried to connect with the gray mist on his bones, but to no avail. Suddenly, he thought of the crystal light that flashed by. After a moment of hesitation, his eyes hardened and he used his mental power. Moreover, it was a mental power from the spiritual coffin. The moment his mental power came into contact with the gray mist, an extremely strong suction force suddenly burst out. Qin Feng's expression changed greatly. He crazily circulated his mental power, and only then did he break free from the gray mist suction force. His head was covered in cold sweat. It was too terrifying. The gray mist didn't react to spiritual power, but it almost devoured his mental power. It was too strange. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. And suddenly, his expression changed again, and his pupils contracted. In his mind, a gray bead appeared in the spiritual coffin. The strange energy was exactly the same as the gray mist. Qin Feng's expression immediately sank. Could this energy have entered his mind through his mental power? He hurriedly circulated his mental power, trying to drive it out. However, it was useless. It was as if this thing was embedded in the spiritual coffin and couldn't be moved at all. He didn't have time to investigate this. Time was almost up, and he had to return to the academy. Chapter 150. Lower the profound Clash Qin Feng's face was very ugly. His spiritual power had also been eroded by the gray fog. The consequences were too serious, and it was likely to lead to an even more terrible situation. However, nothing happened throughout the night. The gray bead stayed in the spiritual outer coffin without any strange movements. I hope nothing bad happens. Qin Feng decided to look for Ying Yuan. The gray fog could even erode spiritual power. Who knew what would happen in the future? This matter could not be delayed. Perhaps Ying Yuan, who cultivated spiritual power, would have a solution, even if he had to expose his spiritual outer coffin. What? The side effect of the bone-strengthening pill erodes spiritual power. Ying Yuan was shocked. He only knew that the side effects of the bone-strengthening pill were very severe in Qin Feng's body, causing him to be unable to use his spiritual force. He didn't expect that there would be a substantial energy eroding his spiritual force. He hurriedly sent a wisp of his mind power into Qin Feng's mind to check. After a while, he said with a puzzled expression, "No, I didn't find anything." "Impossible." Qin Feng shook his head. The gray bead in the spiritual outer coffin was still there. Moreover, Ying Yuan had seen his spiritual outer coffin, so why hadn't he reacted at all? This was a death sentence for a spirit master. "Master, please check again." This time, Qin Feng was extra careful. Soon he was in a daze. When Ying Yuan's spiritual power entered his mind, the spiritual outer coffin disappeared. It was only when the spiritual power left that the spiritual outer coffin reappeared. What was going on? Did the spirit veil have a self-concealing function? An external force had entered, so it automatically concealed itself? He let Ying Yuan try twice, but the results were the same. The spiritual seal was concealed, and outsiders could not see it. This, Qin Feng didn't know what to say. He had already made up his mind to expose the spiritual outer coffin. But in the end, something like this happened. Qin Feng turned around and left Ying Yuan's place dejectedly. He felt helpless. If the demonic I was still around, he would definitely be able to see some clues. "Hey, Qin Feng, what have you been busy with during this period of time? It's one thing to sneak into the burial grounds, but now you're skipping classes every day. Do you know that you're now a problematic student of the academy?" Fan Miao Miao looked at Qin Feng's head and said angrily, "That's right, Qin Feng. You can't give up on yourself like this. You still have a chance to rise," Zhao Qi said. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. There are already problems in his life. Why would he care about his reputation? Why would he care about being a problematic student? You haven't been in class for half a month. No matter what, you have to go today. Fan Miao Miao pulled Qin Feng away and said, "Do you know that teacher Zhao Qi is already considering sending you to the profound class? Hurry up and apologize to her today." "It doesn't matter. In my current state, it's the same no matter where I go," Qin Feng said. When Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao heard this, they were furious. Zhao Qi said loudly, "Do you know what kind of place the profound class is? If you really go there, it means that the academy has completely given up on you, and you have lost the chance to rise." Qin Feng shook his head. With him like this, the academy had long since given up on him. "You can't go to the profound class." The two dragged Qin Feng away. Qin Feng sighed. After entering the Saint Ruin, he also understood what kind of existence the profound class was. The academy was a lawless area with all kinds of people. It could be said that no one cared about what you did there. Rape, plunder, murder, arson, as long as you had the ability, you could do anything. The only thing the profound class teacher had to do was to teach normally and send some people with considerable potential to the Earth class. Simply put, it was to pick out the good people from a group of social scum. It was the only place in the Saint Ruin that had the same system as the outside world. No, it was even crueler. No one cared about what you did there. In other words, whether or not you could survive there depended on your own ability and luck. In Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao's view, if Qin Feng entered the profound class in this situation, he would definitely be eaten until there was nothing left. No matter what, you can't go to the profound class. The three people came to teacher Zhao Qi's office. "Problem student, you're here," Teacher Zhao Qi said coldly. She crossed her arms and sat there, looking at Qin Feng. Ever since she started teaching, she had never met such a student. "Teacher Zhao Qi, Actually, Xiao Qi interrupted Zhao Qi's words and stared at Qin Feng. What I want to hear from you. Looking at Xiao Qi's cold and beautiful face, Qin Feng said, I'm looking for a way to solve the problem with my body. Hearing this, Xiao Qi raised her eyebrows. Have you found it? No, it's even worse. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. You mistakenly ate the bone-strengthening pill, causing problems with your body, but you didn't listen to other people's advice and stubbornly went into the burial district, sneaking out of the St. Ryu Inn. Do you know that Earth class students are not allowed to leave the St. Ryu Inn without permission? Your every word and action goes against the principles of the St. Ryu Inn. Xiao Qi said coldly. How could I dare to accept such a disobedient student? Qin Feng shook his head. I can't put all my hopes on others. I can't just sit there and wait. This is your excuse for not daring to face reality. Xiao Qi snorted. Your situation, even Senior Gu and Senior Ing can't do anything about it, and you think you can solve it? I advise you to recognize reality and be honest. Then you can continue to practice. Now I've decided to kick you out of the Earth Class 8 and assign you to the Profound Class. Do you accept? Teacher Xiao Qi. Hearing this, Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao's faces changed. Xiao Qi shook her head and said coldly, a person who doesn't even dare to recognize himself. Such a person won't have any future. Teacher Xiao Qi, you don't have to ridicule me like this. I accept the arrangement. Qin Feng said. Xiao Qi was stunned. She originally thought that Qin Feng would beg her not to send him to that man-eating place. She didn't think that he would be so calm. She just wanted to scare Qin Feng and make him more obedient, but the situation turned out like this. You really don't care at all? Xiao Qi said. Qin Feng smiled. A student like me is really hard to discipline. Teacher Xiao Qi, you don't have to make it difficult. Do what you need to do. Hearing this, Xiao Qi's face gradually turned cold. Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao's pretty faces also turned pale. AI, thinking about your performance when you first entered the school, I thought I could get a good student. I didn't expect you to be trash. What a waste of these two girls pestering me these days. Xiao Qi looked at Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao and said, he's already broken the jar. No one can save him. She waved her hand and a jade slip shot out. Take this and report to the Profound Class. Qin Feng took the jade slip, smiled at the three of them, and turned to leave. After he left, Zhao Qi and Fan Miao Miao's faces turned pale. They said to Xiao Qi, he's going to the Profound Class. There's no chance anymore. Whether he can survive or not is a problem. Xiao Qi sighed and said, actually, I admire him. I originally wanted to save him, but he gave up. No one can help him. From now on, you're not allowed to contact him. At the end of her words, Xiao Qi's tone was a bit strict. Chapter 151. Chapter 151 of Course Hose the Bully? From a Sky Hall disciple to the Earth Class, and now he was assigned to the Profound Class. From the highest class to the lowest class, Qin Feng had experienced it all in just a few months. He held the jade pendant and stayed outside for a while until it was close to evening before he walked towards the Profound Class. The Shin class was divided into 4 areas: north, south, east, west, south, and the outermost area of St. Ryu Inn. Qin Feng chose the northern district because it was close to the mountain range. It was the most dangerous district among the 4 districts. Spirit beasts would often sneak in here. Spirit beasts were the best ingredients for him to cultivate the 100-calamity heaven-swallowing art. Therefore, it was much more convenient for him to stay here. At the northern corner of St. Ryu Inn, other than a decent school building, the rest of the place was in shambles. The white walls and green tiles had even collapsed. In some places, a simple thatched hut was built that was barely habitable. These dregs are really troublesome. Looking at the dilapidated environment, Qin Feng grinned. There used to be a proper dormitory building here, but there was a big battle that destroyed most of it. Here, there were all kinds of gangsters fighting, killing, and robbing. No matter how good the building was, it would not be long before it became a ruin. Later on, the academy simply stopped caring and left them to fend for themselves. Qin Feng came to the only building that was still intact. There were many people walking around and looking at him. Some were whistling, some were winking, and some were making throat-slitting gestures at him. Anyway, none of them were serious. They were all sloppy and ruffian. Qin Feng ignored these people. He walked into the teaching building and casually pushed open an office door. There was a middle-aged man sitting inside. His head was buried in documents. He didn't even raise his head as he shouted, "I'm very busy right now. If you have something to say, say it later." Qin Feng walked over, placed the jade slip on the table, and said, "I'm here to report." Hearing this, the middle-aged man raised his head and looked at Qin Feng from head to toe. He said, "You're that little cutie Qin Feng who came all the way here from the Sky Hall's disciple." "Qin Feng is me, but little cutie is not," Qin Feng said indifferently. The middle-aged man smiled and said, "Since ancient times, you're the first person to be demoted from a Sky Palace disciple to a profound class student. This is your student card. Your class and residence are written on it." The middle-aged man handed a simple wooden tablet to Qin Feng and said earnestly, "Little cutie, this place is not like other places. I know about your situation, but since you're here, you have to adapt to the rules of survival here. Thanks for the reminder." Qin Feng smiled and walked out with his student card. Just as they exited the school building, a few people walked over. The one in the lead was a young man with yellow hair. He was about 25 or 26 years old and had a sloppy look on his face. He pointed at Qin Feng and said, "You come here." Qin Feng walked over and said with a smile, "Senior, is there something you need? Do you have any treasures on you?" "Hand them over," said the yellow-haired man. "I do have some treasures on me," Qin Feng said with a smile. "This kid is not bad. Although he's young, he knows what's good for him." The yellow-haired man nodded and said to the people around him, "I have high hopes for this kid. You guys take care of him in the future." "Yes, since third brother has spoken, we will definitely listen," the people behind him quickly said. "All right, kid, hand over your good stuff and follow my brothers." The yellow-haired man walked over and patted Qin Feng's shoulder, saying, "If you encounter any trouble here in the future, just say my name. No one will dare to bully you." Qin Feng glanced at the hand on his shoulder, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Yellow-haired man, you're here to stop the newcomer again." A few people walked over from afar. The leader was tall and strong. He looked like a brown bear and gave people a strong sense of oppression. The yellow-haired man's face changed slightly and snorted, "Human tiger, what I do has nothing to do with you." "Of course, what you do has nothing to do with me." Human tiger glanced at the yellow-haired man and looked at Qin Feng. His eyes were burning. "But I'm very interested in this handsome little boy. You can take the thing, but I'll keep the person." Human tiger licked his lips and his eyes lit up. The yellow-haired man smiled, but that smile made people uncomfortable. He said with a strange tone, "Kid, Human Tiger has taken a liking to you. Consider it your fortune. Follow him well in the future." "Ha! Human Tiger brother, we have a new prey. This little boy looks very weak. You have to be gentle, or else, like the last one, he'll be finished in a few days. You can only rely on your right hand." "Congratulations, Human Tiger brother, you have a new prey." The commotion here naturally attracted many people nearby. They immediately started to tease him, and all kinds of vulgarities flew around. Qin Feng kept a smile on his face the whole time. He saw all these people's words and actions. In the end, he said, "Seniors, I just came here. I don't know some of the rules. I hope you can give me some advice." After that, he took out some herbs and distributed them to everyone. "These are some small gifts. Please accept them. Not bad. Kid, you have good eyes." Everyone laughed. "Since you've taken the gifts, then I can leave too," Qin Feng said. The yellow-haired man glanced at the chinquin bag on Qin Feng's waist and said, "Give me the chinquin bag." "Senior, do you have to be so forceful?" Qin Feng smiled. "Cut the crap. You dare not to give me what I want." The yellow-haired man stared at Qin Feng fiercely and said, "Is the treasure more important, or is your life more important?" Qin Feng smiled. "I also want to ask senior brother the same thing." The yellow-haired man was stunned. Before he could understand, he was suddenly lifted into the air. Everyone was stunned. They looked at the yellow-haired man who was lifted into the air in shock. Then they looked at Qin Feng in a daze. Qin Feng didn't move. A huge sailor extended from his left shoulder and grabbed the yellow-haired man tightly. Qin Feng turned around and looked at Human Tiger. He smiled, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. And this senior. Whoosh! Another sailor extended from his right shoulder and grabbed Human Tiger in the air. The 2 of them struggled with all their might. In the end, they were shocked. They felt a strong force restraining them, making them unable to move. "Who are you?" The yellow-haired man screamed. He knew he kicked a hardboard. "Let me go. Do you know who I am?" Human Tiger also shouted, "Kid, tell me your name." "Qin Feng." Qin Feng smiled indifferently. Everyone instantly quieted down. Their mouths were wide open, and their faces were filled with fear. He was the one who dared to fight with the little demon when he just entered the academy. After becoming a disciple of the Heavenly Palace, he almost killed an elder of the Tang sect. Later, he even snuck into the burial area. After being demoted, he skipped classes for more than half a month. Little cutie Qin Feng? Everyone broke out in cold sweat. Damn, why is this troublemaker here? The yellow-haired man and Human Tiger were also stunned. Their hearts turned cold. They didn't expect that this troublemaker who was famous in the profound class would come here. Compared to them who were here to help the villain, this troublemaker who dared to fight with the little demon in everyone's nightmares and snuck into the forbidden area of the academy was the real bully. We know we were wrong. The 2 of them quickly begged for mercy. Qin Feng chuckled and slowly grabbed the 2 of them. He controlled his strength very well and didn't squeeze them to death. Chapter 152. Tianue Qin Feng looked at the 2 indifferently. After a while, he released semen, and the 2 fell to the ground, dead as could be. Both of their stomachs were swollen. They were drowned alive. "I'm sorry. I didn't plan on killing you. I just didn't think you'd be so short-tempered." Qin Feng shook his head. The corners of his lips curled up as if he was upset. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. It wasn't that they hadn't killed people before, but they had never seen such a cruel way of torturing people to death while chatting and laughing. After the deed was done, they had never seen someone so carefree and relaxed. What was a demon? This was it. Seniors, don't be afraid. I'm a very reasonable person. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Qin Feng stretched out a finger, and his mind power quietly circled around. However, if someone offends me, I will return the favor tenfold. Therefore, if someone does something wrong, they will definitely be punished. He smiled and tapped lightly with his finger. The spiraling spiritual power suddenly exploded, turning into terrifying sharp weapons that swept across the area. In an instant, blood-curdling screams rang out one after another. Streaks of blood-red light flashed, and every spiritual weapon was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, harvesting lives. In a short few breaths of time, only less than 10 people remained from the 30-plus people. All of their legs were trembling as they lay weakly on the ground, and their faces were filled with terror. In the distance, many people were paying attention to this place. There were also people who were about to rush over. When they saw this scene, they were scared out of their wits. Qin Feng glanced at the remaining people, and they immediately knelt down and begged for mercy. "Little cutie, no. Lord Qin Feng, we won't dare to do it again. Please spare us." "What are you doing?" Qin Feng smiled when he saw them helping him up. "I've said it before, I'm a reasonable person. As long as you don't provoke me, I won't provoke others. You guys didn't provoke me, so why should I kill you?" Looking at Qin Feng's harmless smile, their hearts trembled. It turned out that he had killed these people only because they had offended him verbally. This kind of reason for killing was simply the few of them nodded repeatedly, unable to say anything. "All right, you can all go back. Sorry for the fright," Qin Feng said with a smile. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of a person who was about to leave. He said, "Senior, you look a little familiar." That person's body trembled. He slowly turned around and knelt on the ground with a plop. "Big brother, I was wrong." Qin Feng looked at him, slapped his forehead, and said, "I remember now. You're the one who slit your throat at me." After saying that, Qin Feng imitated the man's previous actions. Instantly, the man's throat was torn open by a spiritual weapon, and blood flowed out. Everyone in the vicinity was petrified and didn't dare to move. This kind of killing invisibly, destroying the enemy while talking and laughing, was too terrifying. He was simply a demon. Qin Feng's mental strength gushed out, and his body slowly rose into the air. He looked around, and his voice resounded like thunder. My name is Qin Feng. I used to be a disciple of the Sky Hall, but now I've been demoted to the profound class. From now on, I'm also a member here. I don't like to fight, and I won't interfere in the matters between you all. In the future, everyone will coexist peacefully. In just a few short sentences, there was no domineering declaration, nor was there any force, but everyone present was shocked and nodded repeatedly. Seeing this, Qin Feng gently landed and said to everyone, "Is there anything else you want to say?" No. Everyone quickly shook their heads. Then why are you all still gathered here? Are you interested in a little boy like me? We don't dare. Everyone felt as if they had been pardoned and ran away. Qin Feng's body relaxed. He couldn't help but bitterly smile. The time limit was up, his strength had been sealed. Luckily, he had already established the image of a devil king that couldn't be offended in the hearts of everyone. There shouldn't be anyone who would recklessly find trouble with him. Although what he did was a little cruel and indiscriminate killing of innocents. It was the way of survival here. If you don't kill others, others might kill you. Moreover, there are not many people here who had clean hands. To an evil person, you had to be more evil and more terrifying than him, so that others would be afraid of you. The problem with my body, I still have to solve it as soon as possible. Qin Feng sighed bitterly. He knew that once his situation spread here, his situation would immediately become very bad. He followed the instructions on the student card and walked toward the place. In the teaching building, the middle-aged man looked at Qin Feng's back and whispered, "What a problematic student. He just arrived and already killed so many people. This move is really good. I'm very curious. When your situation is known by the people here, how will you deal with it?" Qin Feng came to a row of broken, thatched huts. When the people who were outside saw him, they immediately smiled and surrounded him. Qin Feng secretly nodded. It seemed that what happened in the teaching building had already spread. "Hello, big brother. The room here has been cleaned up. Please come with me." In the crowd, a young man in his late 20s nodded and bowed respectfully. Qin Feng nodded and walked forward like a moon surrounded by stars. The facilities in his room were extremely simple. There was only a bed, a table, and a chair. That was all. "Big brother, this is the best room we have here." The young man smiled awkwardly and said helplessly, "The good areas are all occupied by the Three Tigers sect, the Earth Dragon sect, and other big sections. Please forgive us, big brother." Qin Feng didn't say anything. He nodded and said, "You all can leave." Seeing that they didn't leave, he couldn't help but be taken aback. He asked, "Is there something else?" "Big brother, The young man hesitated for a long time before he whispered, "Big brother, do you want to form your own force?" Qin Feng was taken aback. He had never thought of forming his own force. Seeing that Qin Feng was silent, the young man said, "Big brother, here, if you don't have your own force, you'll be bullied the most. The cultivation resources distributed by the higher-ups will also be snatched by other forces. Although Big Brother is strong and isn't afraid of those people, with Big Brother's identity, you can't do everything by yourself. Having some subordinates will save you a lot of trouble. Moreover, with Big Brother's current prestige, there will definitely be many followers. In the future, when our force grows big, we can compete with the three sects and become a big gang." Hearing this, Qin Feng thought for a while and felt that this was a good suggestion. Having followers was better than being alone. Moreover, it was safer this way. He said, "I'll leave this matter to you. If there are any obstructions, kill without mercy." "Yes, big brother." The young man was overjoyed. Such a decisive and bold boss was exactly what he needed. The young man recruited people in Qin Feng's name outside. In one night, a large number of followers gathered around him. Including the people who originally lived here, there were more than 100 people. The next morning, more than 100 people stood outside Qin Feng's door. After he came out, they all bowed at the same time and said loudly, "Hello, Feng Ge." Qin Feng nodded inwardly and said expressionlessly, "Since everyone has chosen to follow me, then I'm your boss. I won't say anything nice, nor will I say anything heroic. If you follow me, I can only tell you that from now on, if anyone dares to look down on us, there's nothing to say. We'll fight until they don't dare to look down on us. If anyone dares to resist us, there's nothing to say. We'll kill until they completely surrender." Chapter 153. Vast desolate sect. We pledge our lives to follow Feng Ge. A group of people shouted. They were so excited that their faces were flushed red. Looking at these people, Qin Feng nodded slightly and waved his hand to dismiss them. Qin Feng returned to his room. Soon, the young man followed him in. "Feng Ge, what's the matter?" he asked with a smile. "Not bad, you have a good eye. You're Duan Hong, right? I'll remember that." Qin Feng nodded and sat on the chair. "Tell me about the situation in the northern district." Upon hearing this, Duan Hong's expression also turned serious. He pondered for a moment before saying, "Currently, the situation in the northern district is changing rapidly. It's in turmoil. One sect, 9 sects, and 18 clans. That's the biggest power in the profound class 4th district. I don't need to say more about this sect. It has existed since ancient times and is the true leader of the profound class." Qin Feng nodded. Indeed, the Dragonhead religion was established in the profound class a long time ago. It was mainly because some old students were unwilling to leave after graduation, so they formed such a force. Year after year, they developed into the boss of the profound class. In fact, many years ago, the Dragonhead religion announced that they would no longer care about the matters here. Some people even said that the Dragonhead religion had been disbanded, but no one knew the details and no one dared to investigate this matter. Therefore, Qin Feng was not worried about this Dragonhead religion. "What are the 9 sects?" he asked. "That's the main point." At this point, Duan Hong's expression turned slightly serious as he continued. "In our northern district, there are 3 sects, namely the 3 Tigers Gang, the Earth Dragon sect, and the Vast Earth sect. Among them, the 3 Tigers sect's development is the fastest. Furthermore, our area is under the jurisdiction of the 3 Tigers sect. The 3 Tigers sect has always been known for being rude and overbearing. Anyone who disobeys will be directly suppressed and killed." When the 3 Tigers sect was mentioned, a hint of fear appeared in Duan Hong's eyes. He said in a low voice, "Some time ago, because of a dispute over cultivation resources, the 3 Tigers sect directly uprooted a rather strong force. Their methods were too cruel. Feng Ge, the tiger man you killed yesterday, was the 3rd leader of the 3 Tigers sect. Above him were Tiger Earth and Tiger Heaven. They were Tiger Man's 2nd and eldest brothers." Duan Hong reminded him. Compared to Tiger Earth and Tiger Heaven, Tiger Man was just a small fry. He relied on his 2 brothers to abuse his power here. "You killed Tiger Man. The 3 Tigers sect will definitely not let this matter rest." "How strong are Sky Tiger and Earth Tiger?" Qin Feng asked. "Both of them are very strong." Speaking up to this point, Duan Hong's tone could not help but contain some envy as he continued. "Tianu's talent is pretty good. He has already reached the late stage of the bone strengthening stage. Moreover, it is said that he has also obtained the qualifications to be promoted to the Earth Grey class. Huh, no wonder the 3 Tigers sect has developed so rapidly." Qin Feng chuckled. There was not much fear in his words. He had even been a disciple of the Sky Hall, let alone a small Earth grade class. However, he had to admit that having this kind of quota would indeed bring a lot of convenience. At least, many people would be afraid of this quota. It could be regarded as a symbol of status, at least in the profound grade class. "Feng Ge, we are in the territory of the 3 Tigers sect. We have to be careful." Seeing Qin Feng's indifferent appearance, Duan Hong reminded him. "Moreover, in a few days, it will be the resource distribution day. At that time, there will inevitably be a bloody struggle. Tell me about the situation of the 18 sects. Qin Feng shook his head. Although the Three Tigers sect was strong, he was not a pushover. If they wanted to pinch him, he would also reduce their tiger's prestige. Seeing this, Duan Hong knew that it was useless to say more. He sighed and said, "Among the 18 sects, 5 of them are in the Northern District. Their development is relatively peaceful and they balance each other. However, there is one force that we have to guard against." "Which force?" "The Little Tang sect." Qin Feng was stunned. The Little Tang sect? Was it related to the Tang sect? The leader of the Little Tang sect, Tang Qi, is said to be a distant cousin of the Tang sect's Tang Wei. Therefore, even the 3 sects will give them some face here. Duan Hong said, "You have offended the Tang sect. Moreover, the Little Tang sect and the Three Tigers sect have always been on good terms. I am afraid that they will join forces to deal with you. If they join forces with the Three Tigers sect's power and the Little Tang sect's influence, more than half of the forces in the Northern District will listen to them." Hearing this, Qin Feng secretly nodded and then asked, "Can we rope in the Earth Dragon sect and the Vast Earth sect?" "Not the Earth Dragon sect. The Huang Sen you killed was a core member of the Earth Dragon sect. This is also what I am worried about. Once the Earth Dragon sect gets involved, the situation will become very troublesome." Qin Feng secretly laughed. He did not expect that he would offend the Three Tigers sect and the Earth Dragon sect in one breath. Was he too lucky or too unlucky? "It seems that I still do not understand the profound class well enough." He chuckled. He originally thought that yesterday's intimidation was effective, but now it seemed that he was gravely mistaken. There were many experts in the profound class. After all, they have been cultivating here for many years. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. According to Duan Hong's analysis, the situation was indeed somewhat troublesome. "What about the Vast Earth sect?" he asked. "The Vast Earth sect and the Three Tigers sect have never been on good terms. We can rope in the Vast Earth sect, but I am worried about the current situation. The Vast Earth sect may not agree." Duan Hong analyzed. Qin Feng was silent for a moment. Then he looked at Duan Hong and said, "Duan Hong, I don't care what you were like in the past. I don't care how two-faced you were outside. I also don't care how you try to curry favor with others in the future. However, I want to remind you of who you are. If I find out what you are doing behind my back, then the person who will die the most miserably will be you." Being stared at by Qin Feng, Duan Hong's expression became slightly unnatural. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Of course. Since I have acknowledged Feng Ge, I will definitely do my best to work for you in the future." Qin Feng did not know that his unintentional act of wanting to protect himself would bring him great benefits in the future. He also did not know that this Duan Hong, whom he did not trust, would become his greatest support in the primitive lands in the future. He would work his heart out for him, fight in all directions, and make countless achievements in battle. Later generations would call him the King Killer. Qin Feng nodded, his expression softening slightly. "I want all the information on the Three Tigers sect and the Vast Earth sect's upper echelons. The sooner the better. Also, send someone to keep an eye on the Three Tigers sect. If there is any movement, immediately report back." "Yes." Duan Hong nodded seriously, then walked out. "Three Tigers sect, you better behave yourselves. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." In the afternoon, Duan Hong brought all the information on the upper echelons of the Three Tigers sect and the Vast Earth sect, as well as some bad news. The Three Tigers gang was gathering people. As expected, they are restless. Qin Feng stroked his chin and chuckled. "Feng Ge, what do you want?" Seeing Qin Feng smile, Duan Hong was inexplicably shocked. Qin Feng stared at the information and said casually, "It's time for the Three Tigers sect to be removed from the 9 sections." At dusk, Qin Feng avoided some people and arrived at the Vast Earth sect's territory. He used his psychic power to conceal himself and directly entered the Vast Earth sect's inner area. Who dares to trespass here? In a backyard, several black figures holding swords shouted at Qin Feng. "Qin Feng." Qin Feng looked at them and said indifferently, "I am looking for your sect master. You are Qin Feng? Please wait a moment." Not long after, a group of people walked over. They were all the upper echelons of the Vast Earth sect, and all of them had serious expressions. President Tu Tianhui has personally come to our Vast Earth sect. Please forgive us for not welcoming you. A middle-aged man said, I want to see your sect master. Qin Feng looked at the middle-aged man and said, This concerns the life and death of the Vast Earth sect. I hope you will take it seriously. The upper echelon's expressions changed, and they discussed in low voices for a while. One of them walked over and said respectfully, President Qin, please follow me. Under their lead, the group arrived at an ancient meeting hall. Upon entering, Qin Feng was stunned. Chapter 154. Collaboration. There was a woman sitting at the head of the hall. She was 21 or 22 years old. Her beautiful black hair was tied into a beautiful ponytail. Her facial features were extremely exquisite. Her fair face was set off by the gray linen clothes, making her hair appear even more elegant and refined. Although she was sitting down, it couldn't hide her alluring figure. Her unsightly linen clothes couldn't hide her fresh and delicate aura. However, her sitting posture was a little unladylike. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and crossed her legs. The corners of her mouth curled up in an indescribable arc. Her snow-white chin was raised high at a 45-degree angle. She was a typical sloppy female hooligan, but this didn't affect other people's taste of her. She had a devilish figure and an angelic face. Was this the sect master of the Vast Earth sect, who was known to have an irritable and temperamental personality? Under her command, as long as she was dissatisfied with the slightest thing, the person in charge of the Vast Earth sect would be punished. Moreover, it was a woman. Hong Yu. He thought it was a man. Wait, is this the Vast Earth sect's sect master? Qin Feng looked at the higher-ups. This is our sect master, one of the higher-ups said. Qin Feng nodded and withdrew his expression. He walked over and said with a smile, Greetings, Sect Master Hong of the Vast Earth sect. Hong Yu continued to look up at the ceiling and ignored him. Seeing that, Qin Feng was not annoyed. He only found a seat, sat down, and silently looked at Hong Yu. The hall fell silent for a moment. No one made a sound. Several higher-ups stood there and looked at the two of them, not knowing what to say. Qin Feng stared at Hong Yu without blinking, a faint smile on his face. This silence lasted for a long time. Hong Yu's eyes turned, and he looked at Qin Feng. You are President Qin of Tu Tianhui. That's me. Qin Feng smiled. The little cutie among the disciples of the heavenly palace? Hong Yu blinked his big eyes. Qin Feng coughed dryly, and his expression returned to normal. Why have you come to my Vast Earth sect? Qin Feng held the empty teacup and said indifferently, Is this how the Vast Earth sect treats its honored guests? It's hard to say if he's an honored guest or not. Hong Yu glanced at Qin Feng and said, Little cutie, this is the Xian class. Everyone knows why you were demoted here. Only those who don't know the inside story will be frightened by your little bit of intimidation. Hong Yu lay on the table and blinked his big eyes. He smiled and said, You spend most of the day in a crippled state, right? Qin Feng nodded and smiled. He stared at the pair of big eyes and said, That little bit of time I have is enough to kill you. Hong Yu's smile froze. He sat upright and said, If there's nothing important, President Qin, please go back. Hearing this, Qin Feng stood up and shook his head. Sect Master Hong is really a busy man. Even something as trivial as exterminating a sect is not a big deal. With that, he walked out. Wait. Hong Yu stopped him and said, What do you mean? Qin Feng turned around and looked at her, saying the Vast Earth sect might not be able to see tomorrow's sun. Hearing this, the expressions of the higher-ups changed as they looked at Hong Yu. Hong Yu waved her hand. Her big eyes turned, and she understood. She smiled and said, The Three Tigers sect, the Earth Dragon sect, the Little Tang sect, the Sure sect, and the Wu sect want to attack you. So you want to join forces with the Vast Earth sect to help you resist the enemy. Little cutie, your plan is not bad. It's just that you used the wrong method. You shouldn't have used such a clumsy scheme. Qin Feng shrugged indifferently. Let's go. Otherwise, I'll really hesitate whether I should attack you." Hearing this, Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. "The Three Tigers sect has contacted you." Hong Yayu was stunned. The Three Tigers sect had contacted her in secret. How did Qin Feng know? "The Heavenly Tiger sect gave me some benefits and asked me to help them get rid of you." "Oh." Qin Feng nodded and shook his head with a smile. "Looks like I've walked into a wolf's den." Seeing his calm expression, Hong Yayu said, "Aren't you worried?" Qin Feng asked in return, "Sect Master Hong, would you really harm me?" Hong Yayu shrugged pretentiously. Her gaze gradually turned sharp as she said faintly, "That's not necessarily true." As soon as she finished speaking, powerful spiritual energy fluctuations spread out from the bodies of the vast Earth sect's higher-ups. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became oppressive. "You're too confident. I originally didn't want to get involved in this matter." Qin Feng, on the other hand, was unperturbed. He turned around and sat down. After pausing for a while, he slowly said, "If I die, 2 Tian will be destroyed. Then, the next to be destroyed will be your vast Earth sect." The smile on Hong Yayu's face froze. She asked, "What do you mean?" Qin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked straight at Hong Yayu. He said, "The Three Tigers sect has allied with so many gangs and promised you benefits to let you join. The main reason is that they are very afraid of me. Once I die, the Three Tigers sect will have nothing to worry about. At that time, do you think the Three Tigers sect will share their money or take the opportunity to destroy the vast desolate sect that has always been against them? I don't need to say more about the relationship between the Three Tigers sect and the vast Earth sect, and the Earth Dragon sect has joined forces with the Three Tigers sect because of me. Furthermore, the Little Tang sect is leaning towards the Three Tigers sect. Do you think the Stone sect and the Wu sect have any choice in this situation?" Sect Master Hong, do you think the Three Tigers sect will let go of the opportunity to destroy their competitors in one fell swoop? Do you think the Earth Dragon sect will let go of the opportunity to get at least a third of the vast Earth sect's territory? After destroying 2 Tianhui, their morale will be greatly boosted. If the Three Tigers sect uses this opportunity to announce their attack on the vast Earth sect, what do you think the other factions will do? Qin Feng only knew that the Three Tigers sect and the Little Tang sect were close. As for the relationship between the other gangs and the vast Earth sect, Qin Feng didn't know. His words were just speculation, but it seemed that he had hit the nail on the head. Hong Yayu's expression changed. She had never thought about this question before. After hearing Qin Feng's words, Hong Yayu shuddered. She carefully thought about Qin Feng's words and felt that they weren't without reason. The Three Tigers sect had been suppressing the vast Earth sect for a long time. If they had the chance to completely destroy the vast Earth sect, they definitely wouldn't give up. When they joined forces to destroy 2 Tianhui, their morale had been greatly boosted. If the Three Tigers sect had proposed cooperation at that time, most of the other gangs would have agreed. Hong Yayu lowered her head and didn't speak for a long time. After a while, she raised her head and met Qin Feng's gaze, saying, "Even if I help you, it's too late now. I don't have time to contact the factions that are on good terms with me. I don't even have enough time to mobilize the people in the sect. There's no need." Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. Hong Yayu didn't understand. "What do you mean?" Qin Feng looked at her, then at the other higher-ups. He smiled and said, "The few of us are enough." "Are you joking?" Hong Yayu said. "The other factions have over 1,000 people. How can a few of us contend against them?" Chapter 155. Sneak Attack on the Three Tigers sect in the hall. Hong Yayu and the higher-ups of the vast Earth sect were stunned as they stared blankly at Qin Feng. What did he just say? Destroy the Three Tigers sect? What kind of joke was this? The Three Tigers sect, Earth Dragon sect, Little Tang sect, Wu sect, and Sure sect are all accumulating strength to think of a way to destroy 2 Tianhui. At this time, they would never expect that I, who should be racking my brains to think of a way to defend, would cooperate with the vast Earth sect that they have secretly discussed with. Even more so, they would never expect that the experts of our two forces would not think of defending at this time and would instead attack them. Qin Feng looked at everyone and said, As long as the Three Tigers sect is destroyed, the alliance they formed will also instantly collapse. If the Three Tigers sect is destroyed, they will definitely be panicking. At that time, we will join forces and gather people to take down the Earth Dragon sect. After that, I will use my personal grudges to destroy the Little Tang sect, Wu sect, and Sure sect. 3 sects and 5 sects in the Northern District. At that time, the entire Northern District will belong to the two of us. After hearing this, Hong Yeyu and the others sucked in a breath of cold air. It was hard to imagine that this 17-year-old youth was actually so shrewd and ambitious. What he wanted was not only to destroy the Three Tigers sect, but to swallow the entire Northern District. I have to consider this carefully, Hong Yeyu said in a deep voice. Okay. Qin Feng nodded and then said, however, you only have 2 hours. Do you want to do something big with me, or wait for the Three Tigers sect and Earth Dragon sect to come knocking on your door? Sect Master Hong, you have to think carefully. After a while, Hong Yeyu raised his head and said with a bitter smile, if that time really comes, I'm afraid that the fate of the Three Tigers sect will be the fate of my Vast Earth sect. I don't think you will be willing to rule the Northern District with me. Qin Feng was amused. He looked at Hong Yeyu with a deep gaze and said faintly, my ambition is different from yours. I don't want the Northern District, nor do I want the entire profound class. What can I do if I only focus on this small pond? Hong Yeyu was shocked as he looked at Qin Feng blankly. He did not understand what he meant. Could it be that he was not interested in the Northern District? Then, why did he put in so much effort to do this? Everyone's dream is different. What I enjoy is the process of pursuing and plundering. I don't want to live an ordinary life while guarding the fruits of my labor. Hong Yeyu Qin Feng was When do we move? 2 hours before midnight, Qin Feng said. Hong Yeyu was stunned. Then he smiled and said, that's when you recover your strength, right? Qin Feng smiled and said, if you want, you can try now. Let's see if I can kill you. Staring at Qin Feng's dark eyes, Hong Yeyu smiled and joked, no matter if you're strong or not, we're partners now. Qin Feng played with the cup in his hand and said softly, since we're partners, don't try to pry into your partner's background before we're very familiar with each other. Hong Yeyu's smile froze. Then, he nodded slowly and said to the higher-ups beside him, send people to make preparations. Secretly gather the other troops. We'll attack the Earth Dragon sect at midnight. Yes. The higher-ups left with their orders. The hall fell silent. Qin Feng played with the cup. His eyes were calm. After a while, Hong Yeyu couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked, what are you thinking about? Nothing. I'm just thinking if I should let 2 Tianhui annex the Vast Earth sect. Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. Hong Yeyu was stunned. Then, he rolled his eyes and said, can you stop joking? Even if you really had such a plan, you wouldn't say it now. I'm not joking. Qin Feng shook his head and said seriously, I really plan to destroy the Earth Dragon sect tomorrow and let the Vast Earth sect merge with 2 Tianhui. Hearing this, Hong Yeyu's eyes turned cold. Are you serious? Yes. Qin Feng nodded. Seeing Hong Yeyu's face darken, he waved his hand and smiled. Don't worry. I'm not interested in the Vast Earth sect. I'm just thinking if you should be in charge when 2 Tianhui annex all the forces here and dominate the Northern District. Hearing this, Hong Yeyu was shocked. He looked at Qin Feng in surprise, not understanding what he meant. I said that I'm not interested in the Northern District. Establishing 2 Tianhui was just a whim. Dominating the Northern District is also for survival. Otherwise, it will be destroyed by others. When I came here, I decided that there was no need for the Vast Earth sect to exist. But I'm not familiar with you and don't know your character. So, I'm still considering whether I should let you be my successor. Now, can you tell me why you're willing to stay here? Hong Yeyu was stunned and asked, what do you mean? Hong Yeyu, Vast Earth Sect's Sect Master. Age, 21. Strength, late stage, strong bone realm. With your talent, you're more than qualified to enter the Heaven class, Qin Feng said. I'm very curious why you deliberately hid your strength during the potential test. Hong Yayu was silent for a while. After a long time, he sighed and said with a sad tone, I'm not familiar with you, so I won't say much. I can only say that I'm here for revenge. If you let me take charge of the Northern District, I will definitely not betray you. Because I only want revenge, that's all. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. He wanted to see if Hong Yayu's words were fake, but he couldn't see it. He only saw sadness. He smiled slightly and didn't say anything. Time passed quickly. When Qin Feng felt that the spirit power in his body was circulating freely again, he stood up and his eyes gradually turned cold. Seeing this, Hong Yayu's expression turned serious. He knew that the moment of life and death had arrived. Qin Feng, Hong Yayu, and a high-level expert of the Vast Earth sect were all at the early stage or middle stage Strongbone realm. There were also 1 or 2 at the late stage. The 12 of them secretly left here and came to the territory of the Three Tigers sect. Here, they met up with Duan Hong and the others who had been waiting here for a long time. 2 Tian Hui had just been established, and there weren't many experts. Only Duan Hong and the other 2 had barely entered the Strongbone realm. Have you inquired about it? Yes. Duan Hong nodded and took out a map. On it was the terrain of the hinterland of the Three Tigers sect, as well as the residence of some experts. They have decided to take action at 2 o'clock in the morning, Duan Hong said. In addition to Sky Tiger and Earth Tiger, they have 18 other Strongbone realm experts. Among them, there are 3 at the late stage, 7 at the middle stage, and 8 at the early stage. Qin Feng was stunned. There were so many Strongbone realm experts in the Three Tigers sect, but on second thought, he understood. Although these people were not very talented, they had cultivated for a long time, so it was natural for them to be stronger. Looking at the red circles on the map, Qin Feng thought for a while and said, before they are discovered, they must have less than 10 people. Otherwise, we won't have the advantage if we fight. Chapter 156. 3 Tigers Qin Feng and Hong Yayu were in the same group. The 2 of them sneaked towards the residence of the 3 late-stage bone, strengthening stage experts of the Three Tigers sect. The others were hiding in the places where other bone strengthening realm masters were, waiting for the signal and waiting for the opportunity to move. After discussing and comparing the combat strength of both sides, Qin Feng decided to first assassinate the strongest people of the Three Tigers sect. This way, they would lose their top forces. Even if they were discovered, they could quickly kill the others. Of course, the premise was that the Heaven and Earth Tigers of the Three Tigers sect had been killed. Qin Feng brought Hong Yiyu along so that she could stab the Heaven and Earth Tigers when they failed to assassinate the Heaven and Earth Tigers. After all, he heard that this Heaven Tiger was very likely close to the peak of the late stage. He was probably not much weaker than Long. Second Tiger was only slightly inferior to his eldest brother. Qin Feng was confident that he could successfully assassinate these 2 people, but he couldn't guarantee that there wouldn't be any accidents. Hence, it was safer to bring Hong Yayu along. The 2 of them first found the 3 people's residence. Fortunately, they didn't live together. The moonlight shone down, casting shadows on the ground. In the shadow cast by a short house, Qin Feng and Hong Yiyu slowly walked out. Qin Feng used his spirit to observe for a while and found that this person was meditating. He frowned slightly. This was the most difficult time to assassinate because the other party was very alert. If it wasn't for his mental power shielding, he would have been discovered by this person. After thinking for a while, Qin Feng got Hong Yiyu to hide at the door and wait for his orders. He slowly retracted his mental power and injected it into the spiritual outer coffin. Then, he pulled it out and entered this person's room again. His mental power turned into long strands of hair that were as thin as chopsticks. At the same time, he channeled the power of water and controlled the only basin of water in the room. He secretly condensed his mental power and hid it in the void, aiming at the vital points of that person's body. After a while, Qin Feng nodded at Hong Yayu and the latter knocked on the door. That person opened his eyes and was about to get off the bed when he asked, Has the operation been brought forward? Just when one of his feet was on the ground and the other was still on the bed, making it difficult for him to exert force, the basin of water suddenly rolled up and sprayed all over the man's face. At the same time, more than a dozen spiritual spears shot out and pierced through more than a dozen vital points on that person's body without missing a single one. That person didn't even make a sound before he fell limply onto the bed. Through the crack in the door, Hong Yayu saw the scene in the room. Hong Yayu's heart shook. What a terrifying method, instantly killing people without leaving a trace. As expected of the most dangerous profession, spirit master. At this moment, Hong Yu deeply understood how terrifying Qin Feng was. As long as he wanted to, there was no one in the same cultivation level that he could not assassinate. To have such a person as an enemy was too terrifying. Next, they did the same thing and killed the second and the third. When they arrived at Earth Tiger's residence, they were speechless when they heard the woman's soft moans. Earth Tiger was too careless. How could he still be in the mood to do such a thing at such a time? Hong Yayu's pretty face was burning. After all, she was a woman and couldn't be as calm as Qin Feng. Through the crack in the door, Qin Feng smiled when he saw the entangled bodies inside. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he waited for the moment when the other party shot out the bullet that had been brewing for a long time, because that would be when he was weak. But this made Hong Yayu suffer. Hearing the soft moans and the creaking sound of the bed, she couldn't sit still. Be careful, Qin Feng said telepathically. You just have to treat them like animals. Hong Yayu rolled her eyes. Of course, an underdeveloped little boy like you wouldn't feel anything. A few minutes later, Earth Tiger's body shook violently. His limbs spasmed and he growled. Poochie! At this moment, two spiritual spears shot out and accurately pierced the temples of the two people, killing them instantly. The fourth one. I didn't expect this to be so easy. Qin Feng smiled bitterly. 4 assassinations in a row had taken a huge toll on his spiritual power, but he couldn't say that. After resting for a few minutes, the two came to Earth Tiger's residence. After a brief peek, Qin Feng frowned. Earth Tiger wasn't easy to kill. Earth Tiger's room was very large. Although Qin Feng's spiritual power assassination was accurate, it had to be done within close range. Earth Tiger was already beyond this range. Qin Feng took a deep breath and calculated the time. He should have half an hour before midnight. He had to kill Earth Tiger within 10 minutes. He had to take into account the possibility of being exposed. When the time came, he had to have the ability to protect himself. He couldn't just think about killing Earth Tiger before midnight. After thinking for a while, Qin Feng gritted his teeth. The spiritual power that had been brewing in the spiritual coffin for a long time surged out. It turned into threads and drifted into the room, intertwining and merging with each other. He wanted to use the battle line array to kill Earth Tiger. Qin Feng's forehead was dripping with sweat. This was a harsh test of his spiritual power control. Because setting up a spiritual array would emit energy waves, he had to suppress it and not let Earth Tiger sense it. After a full 8 minutes, he finally succeeded. The battle line array was formed in Earth Tiger's room. He then aimed the array at Earth Tiger. 9 minutes. Qin Feng nodded to Hong Yayu. The latter's spiritual power also surged, ready to attack at any time. Boom! Dozens of spiritual spears were formed in the battle line array and shot out. This was even more terrifying than a simple spiritual power attack. With a light groan, Earth Tiger was injured and rolled off the bed. There were terrifying wounds on his shoulders, chest, thighs, and abdomen. Blood was spurting out. At the same time, Hong Yu also rushed in and stabbed her sword at Earth Tiger's throat. The latter was indeed an expert on par with Cho Long. He reacted quickly and sent out a palm strike. Dense spiritual power swept towards Hong Yayu. Hong Yayu did not expect Earth Tiger to react so quickly when he was seriously injured. She quickly twisted her waist in the air and dodged. Earth Tiger immediately seized the opportunity and ran out of the door. At the same time, he shouted that there was an enemy attack. Whoosh! At this moment, a strong sound pierced through the air. Earth Tiger snorted. He sensed that the opponent was only at the middle stage of the bone-strengthening realm. He then waved out a spiritual shield and faced Hong Yayu's attack. In his eyes, only Hong Yayu could threaten him. However, just as he turned around, his expression changed. He felt that the opponent's aura had increased to the late stage of the bone-strengthening realm. At this moment, the attack also became more terrifying. His expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to move, he found that his limbs were entangled by 4 water snakes. Space-splitting palm. Qin Feng slapped Earth Tiger's back. Earth Tiger's body shook violently. He staggered forward and fell onto Hong Yayu's sword. Earth Tiger was already seriously injured. After receiving Qin Feng's attack and being stabbed in the chest by Hong Yayu, he could not survive even if he had 9 lives. He glared at Hong Yayu. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. He turned his head with difficulty, wanting to see who had ambushed him. However, the palm that was pressed against his back suddenly shook, and a strong spiritual energy invaded his body, crushing his internal organs. Boom! Earth Tiger's body fell to the ground. Even in death, he did not know who had the ability to injure him so severely. However, he could vaguely guess who it was. Chapter 157. 2 Tianwan. With 20 minutes left, Qin Feng and Hong Yayu charged out and killed all of the bone-strengthened realm experts of the Three Tigers sect before leaving the area. A few minutes later, the Three Tigers sect's members arrived and saw the corpses of the Three Tigers sect's upper echelons. They split up halfway, and Qin Feng, Duan Hong, and the others returned to Tu Tianhui's territory. That night, the northern district was in chaos. Scattered people were running and shouting everywhere. It was only when dawn approached that things gradually quieted down. Qin Feng ordered Duan Hong and the others to gather information outside before returning to his room. He rested for half the night, and when the first ray of sunlight shone in, he was back to his peak state. He quickly contacted the Vast Earth sect and gathered everyone from the 2 sects to advance on the Earth Dragon sect. When they arrived, Qin Feng, Hong Yayu, and the others didn't say anything and directly charged in, killing several core members of the Earth Dragon sect. Because it was too sudden and the Earth Dragon sect had been running around all night because of the Three Tigers sect, they were very tired. Qin Feng and the others were caught off guard. They didn't kill all of the bone-strengthened realm experts of the Earth Dragon sect. They only killed a few core members because they needed a new source of strength. With their helper, the Three Tigers sect, and their superiors killed, Tu Tianhui and the Vast Earth sect eyeing them covetously, these people didn't hesitate to join Tu Tianhui. With 8 more bone-strengthened realm experts, Tu Tianhui's overall strength soared. Qin Feng didn't hesitate and set out from the Earth Dragon sect, charging into the Tang sect with his men. Other than Tang Qi, the Tang sect only had 5 bone-strengthened realm experts, and none of them had reached the late stage. Under the pressure of Tu Tianhui's army, they couldn't stop them at all. Most of them surrendered and joined Tu Tianhui. Next, Qin Feng led people to the Stone sect and Wu sect. These 2 sects were even weaker than the Tang sect. Tu Tianhui only went through the motions and didn't really fight. They only killed 2 sect masters, and the others all surrendered. After destroying the Earth Dragon sect and swallowing the Three Tigers sect, Qin Feng's time was up. He returned to Tu Tianhui's territory and ordered people to recruit the remaining members of the Three Tigers sect. At the same time, he called for the Vast Earth sect. He couldn't use his strength, and it would be troublesome if these people betrayed him. After last night's cooperation, the Vast Earth sect was also very loyal. They led a large group of sect members and a group of experts over. Hong Yayu even led 2 of his absolute confidants to protect Qin Feng. In just half a day, the Three Tigers sect, the Earth Dragon sect, the Tang sect, the Stone sect, and the Wu sect were all destroyed. The situation in the northern district changed. Only 1 or 2 of the former 3 sects and 5 factions were left, but an even more terrifying force had appeared, Tu Tianhui. Everyone knew that the leader of Tu Tianhui was the problem student who had just arrived 2 days ago, Qin Feng. Everyone was shocked by his strength and methods. He established his own force as soon as he arrived and even destroyed 2 sects and 3 factions. The power structure that hadn't changed for several years had completely changed in just 2 days. They couldn't help but admire Qin Feng's strength and methods. Many people chose to join Tu Tianhui in Qin Feng's room. If you kill me now, the entire northern district will be under your control, Qin Feng said with a smile. Han Yeyu didn't comment. He stared at Qin Feng for a while before saying, "If I kill you, Tu Tianhui will probably fight me to the death. Do you think Tu Tianhui is united now? Besides, once you call for help, the 2 sects and 3 factions that have joined us will instantly attack the people of Tu Tianhui." Qin Feng shook his head and said with a smile. Han Yeyu nodded and said curiously, "You've already analyzed it so clearly, yet you still asked me to hold the fort. You're really bold. I trust you." Qin Feng leaned back in his chair and hugged his pillow with both hands. Han Yeyu stared intently at Qin Feng, wanting to see through him. However, in that pair of unwavering pitch-black eyes, she only saw calmness without the slightest hint of panic. This was a kind of certainty and also a kind of confidence that everything was under his control. "I won't do it." She shook her head and said seriously, "I'm not sure if I can kill you, and I can't bear to. Moreover, if I sincerely join you, I believe that you will still leave the northern district to me." Qin Feng smiled, a comfortable smile. "You're very cautious and even smarter." His smile spread from the corner of his eyes and then spread to his entire face. His smile was sincere and infectious. For a moment, Han Yeyu felt dizzy. "I have a friend who is just like you, very smart." Qin Feng smiled and said, "Can you tell me why you want revenge?" Han Yeyu was stunned. After a long silence, she sighed and said, "5 years ago, my brother was killed here. He was the closest person to me. In my heart, he was the best brother in the world." "Do you have any idea?" Qin Feng asked after a moment of silence. "Not yet." Han Yeyu shook her head and said, "It's been 5 years. My brother was not an outstanding person. In this profound class where people die every day, no one will remember him. I only have some directions now." "Oh." Qin Feng nodded. After a moment of silence, he said, "Incorporate the vast, desolate sect. In the future, the northern district will be under your control." Hearing this, Han Yu stared at him for a long time before saying, "You really don't care about all of this?" Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. "If it weren't to avenge your brother, would you care about the identity of the northern district's manager?" "How do you know that I don't care?" "I know." Qin Feng smiled and took a sip of tea. Then, he looked at Han Yeyu and said faintly, "You're indifferent and go with the flow. However, you know that people with such a personality won't live long here, so you deliberately pretend to be vicious." Han Yeyu was stunned and her heart trembled. She had an indescribable feeling. This was the first time she had been seen through. "Use my power to investigate the truth of that year. If you need help, you can tell me." Qin Feng stretched, stood up, and laid down on the bed. Han Yeyu looked at Qin Feng in a daze. She held the teacup with both hands. The temperature of the tea passed through the cup and into her palm, making her heart feel warm. Then she smiled. Her smile was pure and innocent. In an instant, the room seemed to lose its color. That afternoon, the vast desolate sect merged with Tu Tianhui. This caused a huge sensation. The last force in the northern district that could contend with Tu Tianhui also joined Tu Tianhui. Now who else? Which force could withstand a single finger from Tu Tianhui? Soon, the last 2 sects also merged with Tu Tianhui. At this point, other than Tu Tianhui, there were no other forces in the northern district. This was unbelievable. 2 days ago, the 3 sects in the northern district kept each other in check and the 5 sects developed steadily. But now, the 3 sects and 5 sects had disappeared. Only Tu Tianhui remained. Han Yayu will be the president of Tu Tianhui. Duan Hong will be the vice president. That day, Tu Tianhui announced this news to the public. The entire northern district was shocked and speechless. Chapter 158. Chapter 158 In the Secretary the Art of War Within 2 days. The power structure of the Northern District had completely changed. The 3 sects and 5 factions that once dominated the area had all disappeared. A new power, the Tu Tianhui, had taken control of the area. Everyone knew that Tu Tianhui had been established by Qin Feng. He had spent 1 day to establish this power, and then another day to plow through the courts and wipe out all the powers here, making Tu Tianhui the sole power. However, at this time, it was suddenly revealed that the president of the Tu Tianhui Club was the former sectmaster of the Vast Earth sect, Hong Yayu. The vice president had also been chosen. Then why was there no news of Qin Feng, who had conquered Tu Tianhui? This was puzzling because everyone knew that the president of Tu Tianhui could be said to be the ruler of all the students in the Northern District. With such great power and status, how could Qin Feng give it up? However, no matter what the outside world said, Qin Feng did not respond. Under Hong Yayu's iron fist, Tu Tianhui developed in an orderly manner. After removing some elements of unrest, it became a truly powerful force with cohesion and unity. During this period of time, Qin Feng also saw Duan Hong's ability. This person's talent was not outstanding, but he was suitable to be a politician. He was very talented in management and also very ambitious. This kind of person, if controlled well, would be Qin Feng's most capable assistant. But if his ambitions were not curbed, he would also become Tu Tianhui's biggest cancer. On this day, Qin Feng was strolling around Tu Tianhui. Some disciples greeted him respectfully when they saw him. Although the president of Tu Tianhui was Hong Yayu, the people of Tu Tianhui understood that the one who truly controlled Tu Tianhui was this young man who was much younger than them. He was the one who allowed Tu Tianhui to reach its current scale. Qin Feng came to the simple meeting hall. "Hello, Fengge." The group of people hurriedly bowed their heads and greeted him respectfully. Qin Feng waved his hand, telling them not to stand on ceremony. "Fengge, why are you here?" Duan Hong hurried over, his face flushed. Qin Feng didn't say anything. Instead, he walked around and saw a big bag of cultivation resources. Only then did he say, "How do you plan to distribute these things?" Today was the day of the distribution of resources. Tu Tianhui naturally collected all the resources. At this moment, they were discussing this matter. According to the previous system, the leader of a force should receive 30% of all the resources. However, they weren't familiar with Qin Feng, so they didn't know what he thought of this matter. Duan Hong looked at the cultivation herbs and said, "Fengge, Tu Tianhui's current status was all because of you. You should get half of the cultivation resources, right?" Qin Feng looked at him in surprise. He then looked at the others and said with a smile, "Is this what all of you are planning?" Everyone nodded with smiles on their faces. Qin Feng searched through the many herbs for a while, but didn't find what he wanted. He shook his head and waved his hand, saying, "Distribute it to everyone. I don't need it." His words stunned everyone present. They felt that it was inconceivable. "Fengge, you don't want it?" Duan Hong was shocked. Cultivation resources were the foundation of their cultivation. If they lost these, their cultivation speed would be greatly reduced. Qin Feng nodded. He had obtained a lot of cultivation resources in the Nine Spirits mountain range. These weren't good enough for him. He said, "The previous rules are now all invalid. Now, there must be a strict reward and punishment system, as well as a strict promotion system. From today onwards, all members of Tu Tianhui, regardless of their position or strength, as long as they contribute to Tu Tianhui, will be rewarded according to their contributions. Also, everyone's abilities are different. Some are good at fighting, some are good at scheming, some are good at hiding, and some are good at socializing. There are currently 5 halls under Tu Tianhui: the Battle Hall, the Master Hall, the Dark Hall, the Information Hall, and the Law Enforcement Hall. According to their abilities, they will be allocated accordingly. Each hall will have their own duties. Discuss this matter well with Hong Yayu. Try to come up with a plan as soon as possible." The group of people stared blankly at Qin Feng. They were shocked by his words. This was going to be a formal change to a large force. They had never thought of such a thing before. It had never happened in the 3 sects and 5 factions in the past. A large force should act like a large force. I don't want to see the free and undisciplined situation of the past. I want a 2 Tian Hui with strict discipline. Duan Hong's eyes were shining. Such a boss was the one he wanted to follow. He had a feeling that under Qin Feng's leadership, 2 Tianhui's future development would be immeasurable. Fengge, don't worry. We will definitely come up with a series of rules and regulations in the shortest time possible. Duan Hong said. After hesitating for a moment, he said, Fengge, in the past, the forces in the northern district were complicated and kept each other in check. Now that 2 Tianhui is the dominant force, I'm worried that the other 3 districts may have opinions. If they have opinions, it's their business. How to do it is our business. Qin Feng waved his hand. His tone was bone-chilling. If they know their place, the 4th district will develop peacefully. If they want to play tricks, I don't mind wiping them out. When a few people heard this, they secretly gasped. This ambition, only Duan Hong's eyes lit up. You guys can leave first. Duan Hong, stay. Yes. Everyone accepted the order and left. Duan Hong stood behind Qin Feng and asked, Fengge, do you have any orders? Qin Feng clasped his hands behind his back and said, Are you comfortable in the vice-chairman's seat? Duan Hong smiled and said, All of this is given to me by Fengge. Qin Feng nodded slightly, then shook his head and smiled mysteriously. You are not a person who can guard the world. This sentence made Duan Hong's body tremble. Cold sweat flowed down his body. He quickly whispered, Fengge, did I do something wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Qin Feng waved his hand and said, You are not suitable to guard the world, but you are very suitable to fight for it. With your help, 2 Tianhui's future development will only get better and better. Hearing this, Duan Hong breathed a sigh of relief. However, he couldn't figure out the meaning of Qin Feng's words, so he didn't dare to say anything. Everyone has their own strengths. According to their abilities, they will have a corresponding position. However, since they are human, they have a heart. With a heart, greed will be born. This is something that everyone needs. It is not a bad thing. Because of greed, one will work hard for what one wants. Greed is human nature. However, if one can't control the bottom line of greed, the bottom line of human principles will be lowered again and again. If one loses these, they may become bigger and bigger. They may gain more and more, but they may also lose everything, including their life. Thinking about Qin Feng's words, Duan Hong understood the meaning behind them. He said solemnly, Fengge, don't worry. I know what to do and what not to do. Qin Feng turned around and looked at him. He nodded slightly and patted his shoulder. He said faintly, Duan Hong, you are the first person to follow me. I hope that one day you will not be my subordinate, but a confidant that I can confide in. Do you understand? Duan Hong's body trembled. He raised his head and met Qin Feng's gaze. He nodded heavily. Chapter 159. Undercurrent is surging with just a few words. He managed to make Duan Hong even more loyal to him. Qin Feng couldn't help but smile helplessly. He discovered that he was quite talented in this aspect. Soon, his smile vanished, and his attitude returned to indifference. He knew what he wanted at all times. He wanted to be the strongest here, but he was just a frog at the bottom of a well. What he really wanted to do was to leave this land, overthrow the cruel slavery system, and complete the responsibilities on his shoulders. In half a month's time, 2 Tianhui had undergone great changes. It was divided into 2 major departments, the external society and the internal society. The inner circle consisted of 2 Tianhui's absolutely reliable and trustworthy clan members. The inner circle consisted of the Battle Hall, the Master Hall, the Dark Hall, the Information Hall, and the Law Enforcement Hall. These 5 halls each had their own duties and also supervised each other. The outer society was made up of the idle members of the North District. Only those who passed the loyalty test had the right to be promoted to the inner society. A month later, a decent headquarters was built. It provided accommodation for some of the core members of Tu Tianhui. Tu Tianhui, Meeting Hall. Fengge, some forces in the Western District have already extended their hands into our territory. Duan Hong placed a pile of documents in front of Qin Feng's desk and said, "This is the information gathered by the Information Hall." Qin Feng looked at it for a while, put down the document, and looked around at the audience. He smiled slightly and said, "Mountain Splitter Sect, Tan School. Only one sect and one school has made a move. Why should we be angry? Fengge, this is Tu Tianhui's territory. They're developing their forces here and recruiting people. They don't even put us in their eyes." "That's right, Fengge. If we don't do anything, they will definitely accuse us of being cowards. We have to teach them a lesson and let them know that Tu Tianhui is not to be trifled with." Looking at the excited crowd, Qin Feng smiled and said, "Everyone wants to fight, right? Does anyone have a different opinion?" Everyone fell silent. Qin Feng looked at Hong Yayu. The latter exchanged a glance with him and also shook his head. Seeing this, Qin Feng shook his head and said, "With Tu Tianhui's current strength, what are his chances of winning against the entire Western District?" Everyone was silent. Although Tu Tianhui had absorbed all the forces in the Northern District, the previous battles had caused the Northern District to lose many experts. They had no chance of winning against any of the districts. Even so, the Western District isn't as united as a whole. "If we take them down one by one, it'll be easy," Duan Hong said. Qin Feng shook his head and said with a smile, "Do you think they are fools? Do you think they don't understand the principle of interdependence? If we make a move against a force, they will definitely join forces to deal with us. In our territory, even if they join forces to attack, we can still defend. But don't forget that the Eastern District is adjacent to us. If they attack, what should we do?" Hearing this, everyone broke out in a cold sweat. They had all neglected the peaceful Eastern District. There was a moment of silence in the hall. After a while, someone said, "If we don't care and let them develop, it'll be like sticking a thorn in our territory." "That's right. If they attack in the future, it'll be too dangerous for us." Everyone agreed. Qin Feng nodded and said, "There's no need to pull out a thorn. What they do here, not only do we not care, but we also have to indulge them. This way, the other forces in the Western District will also come to take a share of the pie and send more people in. When their numbers reach a certain number, we will annihilate them. This way, it will be enough to hurt them. At that time, it will be time for us to completely annex the Western District. In addition, is there any force in the past that is on good terms with the Eastern and Western Districts? If there is, send someone to persuade them. We can promise them some benefits and let them stay out of this. Remember, they are not our friends, but our prey. So no matter what, everyone has to control their size. Send someone to contact the Eastern District. When we annex the Western District, it will be even better if they don't make a move. Helping the Eastern District and destroying the Western District is the first step in our rule of the 4 districts." In the hall, everyone was stunned when they heard Qin Feng's words. Their hearts raced. They thought that Qin Feng did not want to cause trouble and only wanted to be the boss of the Northern District. They did not expect him to have such a plan. He wanted to take over the Western District and even the entire Profound class. "The Gong sect in the Western District is on good terms with me. If there are no accidents, when we attack the Western District, not only will they not resist, they will even cooperate with us," Hong Yayu said with a smile. Hearing this, everyone was delighted. If the Western District's 2 sects and 5 clans were destroyed, and one of them betrayed them, it would be even easier to annex them. The Zhang sect has a good relationship with the former 3 Tigers sect. I should be able to get them to stay out of this. A former 3 Tigers sect upper echelon said, "I've been in contact with a force in the Eastern District. I can talk to them. I also know some people who can persuade them." Many people spoke up, excited. Qin Feng rested his chin on his hand and listened quietly. The smile on his face grew even wider. After a while, Qin Feng said with a smile, "In that case, everyone, don't waste your breath. After the matter is done, you will be rewarded according to your contributions." "Yes, thank you, Fengge." After the meeting ended, Everyone walked out excitedly. It could be expected that once they succeeded, they would not only control the Northern District, but also the Western and Western Districts. They might even control more in the future. The Western District extended their influence to the Northern District, but Tu Tianhui did not make any moves. This made the other forces in the Western District jealous. They sent people over to form branches. More and more forces in the Western District got involved. In the end, they even sent many high-level members here. In a few days, nearly one-third of the Northern District's territory fell into the hands of the various forces in the Western District. As their territory expanded, they also constantly sent experts from their forces to hold down the fort. During this period, Tu Tianhui had been conserving their energy. The battle hall intensified their training to improve their combat strength. The information hall paid close attention to the movements and kept a clear picture of the various forces. The Dark Department hid near the various forces, controlling the work and rest times of all their strongholds. Many people even pretended to be idle and directly attacked the various forces. The Master Hall was filled with meticulous people who were good at scheming. During this period of time, they had been discussing the best battle plan and the follow-up matters. The entire Tu Tianhui appeared calm on the surface, but they were secretly operating, waiting for the moment to erupt. Half a month later, late at night, Tu Tianhui made their move. Qin Feng gathered the higher-ups for a short meeting. There's a change in the plan. We can't take action at dawn to annex the Western District, Qin Feng said. Everyone was shocked. Didn't they agree on it? It was better to be fast than late. This matter can't be delayed. If they are prepared, even if we can take them down, it will be a huge blow to our vitality, Han Yeyu said with a frown. That's also my consideration. However, the Eastern District is a ticking time bomb. Some of your lobbying might not be effective. If we attack the Western District at dawn, who can guarantee that the Eastern District won't do anything? Everyone fell silent. This was indeed troublesome. If we don't destroy the Western District this time, it will be even more troublesome in the future. Of course, we have to annex the Western District this time. Not only do we have to be fast, we have to be even faster. Qin Feng looked around at everyone and said, destroy the forces in the Western District that have developed here before midnight, then directly attack the Western District. I want to control the entire Western District before dawn. Chapter 160. Rule the Western District. With regards to Qin Feng's decision, no one hesitated at all. Apart from a few people who stayed behind to watch over the various halls, almost all of them moved out. However, compared to before, some adjustments were made. Aside from the Dark Hall, the remaining members of the Information Hall all sneaked into the Western District. One-third of the Battle Hall's forces were also sent into the Western District to wait for the main force. It was also to stop the fish that slipped through the net and ran over to report. Qin Feng, on the other hand, led the remaining people to the Western District to support the various forces here. Qin Feng attached great importance to this appetizer on the eve of the final battle. In this battle, he couldn't let a single person escape, let alone leak any information. After entering this place, Tu Tianhui's army didn't waste any time. They directly charged in and cooperated with the Dark Hall members hidden inside. Within 10 minutes, the Western District's forces that extended to this place were wiped out. Then, they didn't stop and charged toward the second power. In just 1 hour, 3 forces had been uprooted. The commotion here also alerted the other forces, but it was too late. Tu Tianhui's army split into several groups and rushed into the remaining forces, starting a massacre. Han Yeyu led a group of experts into the fiendish Nether sect, while Qin Feng charged into the Mountain Split sect. These two sects were the most powerful in this area, so naturally they would receive the most attention from Tu Tianhui. The Dark Hall also had the most number of people mixed in. They cooperated with Tu Tianhui's army from the inside and outside and killed them all. Amidst the chaotic battle, Qin Feng followed the information from the Dark Hall and killed his way to a certain place. That was the gathering place of the Mountain Split sect's experts. Along the way, he dashed around recklessly. His mental energy transformed into countless sharp blades that surged around his body, causing a string of blood to splatter. No one who came close to him was spared. His spiritual power and the power of water continued to erupt, directly tearing a hole in the battle circle, killing all the way. Along the way, he successively killed 2 masters of the bone, strengthening realm. Everywhere he passed, there would be a rain of blood. No one dared to approach him. He killed his way to the place where the battle was the most intense. There were several 2 Tianhui elites fighting fiercely with the elites of the Mountain Split sect. These were the elites of the Dark Hall who had hidden their strength and mixed in with the elites of the Mountain Split sect in order to stall the elites of the Mountain Split sect and not let them escape. Kill! Qin Feng roared furiously, his killing intent overflowing. His mental energy transformed into a large hand that crushed one of the Mountain Split sect's bone strengthening experts. He had personally seen him kill a Dark Hall expert. Brothers, follow me. Now that their boss had come personally, the experts of the Dark Hall who were locked in a bitter battle felt their confidence increase greatly. They fought with all their might. With the addition of Qin Feng, none of the 9 strong bone stage martial artists of the Mountain Split sect managed to escape. All of them were executed. The rest were either dead or surrendered. Brothers, I know you're all tired, but the destruction of the Western District is imminent. We can't stop. We have to take it down in one go, Qin Feng said loudly. Kill! Kill! The group of people shouted loudly, their fighting spirits soaring. All right, let's kill our way into the Western District and tell them that those who provoke us, 2 Tianhui, will only end up dead. Qin Feng led his troops to meet up with Hong Yayu's group and the others. They directly entered the Western District and gathered with the people who had stayed behind. Fenggu, some people escaped, but none of them can get past us, Duan Hong said with a smile. Behind him was a large group of 2 Tianhui troops filled with killing intent. Qin Feng nodded and said, kill our way to the Mountain Split sect. Duan Hong led the fresh troops who had not yet made a move. They charged into the Mountain Split sect at lightning speed and began a massacre. Hong Yayu and a few of his trusted aides surrounded Qin Feng. They knew that it was already past midnight, and Qin Feng was currently in a powerless state. It was too sudden, and the Mountain Split sect was not prepared at all. They were all in their dreams, and when they were attacked, they were all stunned. When some of the higher-ups reacted, most of them had already surrendered. In a large courtyard, 2 Tianhui's army had surrounded it. In the courtyard, Qin Feng stared indifferently at the higher-ups of the Mountain Split sect and said, the Mountain Split sect has already perished today. I, 2 Tianhui, have the intention to recruit you. Those who are interested can join now. Qin Feng, you actually launched a sneak attack. You're too despicable, Jiang Mingkai, the leader of the Mountain Split sect, shouted with his eyes wide open. Qin Feng glanced at him coldly. If you could obediently guard the Western District, I wouldn't have touched you. You were the one who was greedy and shouldn't have been. This is your fate. After saying that, he looked at the other people of the Mountain Split sect and said loudly, you've all seen that the Mountain Split sect will definitely perish today. I have a heart that cherishes talent and sincerely want to rely on you. 2 Tianhui will let bygones be bygones. Everyone, do you want to die with the Mountain Split sect, or join 2 Tianhui and conspire with him? Think carefully. You only have 1 minute. If I join 2 Tianhui, will you really let me go and not care about my identity as a member of the Mountain Split sect? Someone asked. Qin Feng smiled faintly, pointed to the experts behind him, and said, report your previous identities. I'm a higher-up of the 3 Tigers sect. I'm from the Earth Dragon sect. I'm from the Stonegate sect. See, they weren't from 2 Tianhui before. Qin Feng looked at the more than 10 experts in the Bone-Strong realm and dozens of people in the sea-opening realm of the Mountain Split sect, and said, as long as you sincerely join, there will still be a place for you to display your talents in 2 Tianhui. Okay, I'll join. I'm also willing to rely on 2 Tianhui. In less than a minute, there were already 7 or 8 experts in the Bone-Strong realm, and more than 20 people in the sea-opening realm who had joined. Is there anyone else? Qin Feng glanced at the others. After waiting for a while, someone reached out with a trembling hand. I'm also willing. No need, the time is up. I said 1 minute, so it's 1 minute. In Tu Tianhui, rules are everything. I gave you a chance, but you didn't grasp it. Qin Feng slowly retreated into the crowd and waved his arm. Attack. Don't leave a single one alive. Immediately, the experts in Tu Tianhui swarmed forward. Qin Feng came to the door, ignoring the battle cries in the courtyard. Qin Feng, you don't have to follow us. I'll send my confidants to escort you back. Hong Yu could not help but worry when he saw the fatigue on Qin Feng's face. His strength was sealed, so it was not suitable for him to move for long periods of time. With me, their boss, they have more confidence and motivation. Qin Feng waved his hand and pointed to the battlefield, saying, the Mountain Split sect was destroyed just like that. After the Demon Nether sect is destroyed, I'll leave the rest to you. Hearing that, Hong Yu nodded. Although there were only the Mountain Split sect and the Demon Nether sect in the Western District, both of them were stronger than the 3 sects in the Northern District. Previously, they had killed more than a dozen bone-strong realm experts, and now there were still more. From this, it could be seen how strong the Mountain Split sect was. The Demon Nether sect was not much weaker than the Mountain Split sect. He had to cut off these 2 heads before he could return with peace of mind. Before long, the Demon Nether sect followed in the footsteps of the Mountain Split sect. Although they were prepared, they could not withstand Tu Tianhui's ferocious attacks. In less than an hour, the Demon Nether sect was also eliminated from the Western District. At that moment, Qin Feng returned to the Northern District under the protection of a few of his confidants. Before dawn, the Western District fell under his rule. Chapter 161. Dragonhead religion emerges in one night. Of the 2 sects and 5 clans in the Western District, only the Gong clan and the Zhang clan survived. The other powers were all destroyed. This news shook the entire profound class, making everyone shocked. Who would have thought that a large region would change hands so easily and fall under the rule of Tu Tianhui? No one dared to believe it, because it was simply too absurd. Originally, the various factions in the western region had extended their hands into the northern region, and they had all developed quite a bit. But who would have thought that in just one night, the branches of the various forces that had just developed would be destroyed, and even their headquarters would be destroyed? It was too inconceivable. Just thinking about this kind of speed made one's scalp tingle. That day, the only remaining Gong clan and Zhang clan in the Western District chose to join Tu Tianhui. Imperceptibly, Tu Tianhui's strength rose to another level. In a profound class, there was no other power that could contend against them. For a time, Tu Tianhui ruled over the 2 districts in the north and west, and the limelight was unparalleled. Western District, Tu Tianhui branch. With great difficulty, Qin Feng finally finished dealing with all kinds of complicated matters, such as personnel establishment and handover procedures. He was so tired that he laid on the table. After all, you're the real boss of Tu Tianhui. There are some things that you have to do personally, especially at the beginning of the integration of the 2 districts, Hong Yu said with a smile. He was very happy to see that this boss who left everything to others was so tired. Qin Feng rolled his eyes at her and said, although our forces are strong, we can't be careless. During this time, pay more attention to the movements in the east and south. Are you worried that they will join forces to attack us? Hong Yu asked in shock. Although the possibility is low, it doesn't mean it's impossible. Qin Feng nodded and said, people's hearts are not what they used to be. Who can guarantee that they won't cause trouble at this time? It's not that easy to completely merge the 2 regions into one force. We've taken in a large number of people from the Western District. It's not impossible for others to instigate a rebellion. Tell the information hall to pay close attention to this. If there is collect evidence, when the time comes, we will have a reason to take action. After a pause, Qin Feng continued, tell the Dark Hall to think of a way to infiltrate the eastern and southern districts. Hearing that, Hong Yu and Duan Hong were both shocked. They said at the same time, "You want to attack the two regions?" Qin Feng shook his head. "That depends on what they do. If they want to follow in the footsteps of the Western District, I can only fulfill their wishes. Besides, it's not a bad thing to be prepared for a rainy day. If that day really comes, we'll have the absolute initiative." The two of them nodded, inwardly sighing at Qin Feng's meticulous planning. If it weren't for his planning, how could they possibly rule over the Western District, let alone annex it in a single night? The two of them looked at him without saying anything. Look at me like that." Hong Yeyu stared fixedly at Qin Feng and said, "In a short 2 months, the Northwest 2 districts fell into your hands. Back then, when you were demoted to the profound class, did you do it on purpose?" Qin Feng smiled and said, "Don't you know my situation?" Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel helpless. After so long, his strength didn't increase at all, and his condition was still the same. Most of the time, he was a cripple. It wasn't that he didn't think of a way, but it was useless. "All right, there's still classes tomorrow. Go back." During this period of time, although many things had happened, they didn't fall behind in their classes. As a student of the profound class, they could cause trouble and kill as they pleased. However, there was an ironclad rule. No matter who it was, they had to show enough respect to the tutors. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stay. On this day, after class, Qin Feng was called to the tutor's office. "You're really a troublemaker. How long has it been, and you've already caused such a huge commotion? So many people have died, and you're even in charge of the northern and western districts." Qin Feng's tutor, Shen Yu, said. Her charming and beautiful face was filled with helplessness. Qin Feng shrugged and said, "Who died in the profound class? How many people died? Is that important? I just want to survive better here. You should understand the saying, a tall tree attracts the wind. With such a high profile, it's easy for others to think about you." Shinyu said helplessly. "The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind won't stop. I can't do anything about it." Qin Feng said, "Besides, thinking about it is one thing, but taking action is another." Shinyu raised her eyebrows and curiously looked at Qin Feng. After a while, she smiled and said, "You're very confident, but your body's current condition." Qin Feng waved his hand and said, "No matter what, other people's first impression of me is that I'm confident, strong, and unshakable. That's enough." Shinyu sighed and slowly shook her head. She didn't say anything and let Qin Feng leave. But just as he was about to open the door and go out, Shinyu suddenly said, "Little cutie, you missed a lot of classes. Stay at my place for a while. I'll give you tuition." "Min or Shinyu, I didn't miss any classes." Just as he spoke, Qin Feng's eyes suddenly focused and stared at Shinyu. The latter looked at him with a smile. After a moment of silence, Qin Feng said, "Thank you, Mentor Shinyu. If necessary, I will." Shinyu was stunned and immediately said, "You can understand the meaning of my words, which means that you're very smart. But why do you still want to do this?" Qin Feng smiled and said, "What will come will come. There's no way to avoid it. Some things can only be solved by facing it, right?" After saying that, Qin Feng didn't stop and opened the door and walked out. Shinyu looked at the closed door and sighed softly. What a smart and troublesome little cutie. "Fengge, how's the talk with Mentor Shinyu?" Zhao Cheng walked over and winked. "Mentor Shinyu is a flower among the mentors of our profound class. I don't know how many people are pursuing her. He was personally recommended by Hong Yeyu and Duan Hong to be the captain of Qin Feng's secret guards. During this period of time, he had been secretly protecting Qin Feng's safety with his men. Fengge, if you want to pursue her, we can create an opportunity for you. If Mentor Shinyu can become our sister-in-law, it will be a wonderful thing." Qin Feng glanced at Zhao Cheng and said indifferently, "Zhao Cheng, you've become bolder." Zhao Cheng was so scared that he shrank his neck and didn't dare to speak. However, he wasn't afraid. He had been with Qin Feng for a long time and knew what kind of person he was. He would never be soft-hearted to those who went against him. But for his own people, especially his confidants and friends, he was very tolerant. As long as it wasn't a big mistake, he wouldn't be too calculative. Back at the two Tianhui headquarters, Qin Feng's face was slightly gloomy. Xinyu asked him to stay at her place in the name of tutoring. It seemed that there was a hidden meaning in her words. It seemed to be reminding him that it was not safe for him to stay here in the near future. Qin Feng couldn't understand. Which force could threaten him now? Unless... Qin Feng's eyes narrowed, and he thought of a force. I hope I'm thinking too much. Everything was as usual. Tu Tianhui's development was on track. Those who needed to go to class went to class. Those who needed to rest, and nothing unexpected happened. That night, Qin Feng suddenly woke up from his sleep and sat up with a whoosh. A strong sense of uneasiness shrouded his heart and made his heart palpitate. Qin Feng, Tu Tianhui's boss, you're awake. A voice suddenly sounded, causing Qin Feng's body to stiffen. He slowly turned his head. When he saw the figure sitting on the chair, his pupils shrank fiercely. Tu Tianhui's boss' vigilance is really unflattering. The person said lightly. Chapter 162. Threat to be able to sneak past Tu Tianhui's layers of blockades and enter his room. This person was definitely a top-notch expert. As far as he knew, there was no such person in District 4. It was impossible for the instructors to participate in the fights between the students. They were only responsible for teaching and would not even look at the life and death of the students. The only possibility was that it was the legendary disbanded, strongest organization, the Dragonhead Religion. You're smart indeed. You thought of this organization immediately. The man nodded. Hee. The Dragonhead Religion has graced us with your presence. What a surprise. Qin Feng stood up and walked over. He lit a candle and nodded. From his voice, he guessed that this person was not young. As expected, he was almost 40 years old. May I know why your excellency has come? Qin Feng asked. Since you know about the Dragonhead Religion, you should know why I'm here. The middle-aged man smiled. Qin Feng shook his head and said, I don't think I have anything to do with the Dragonhead Religion. Please enlighten me. The middle-aged man's smile faded slightly. The Dragonhead Religion hopes that the 4 districts can balance each other and develop steadily. They don't want to see a situation where one of them dominates. Do you understand? Hearing this, Qin Feng nodded. Seems like you're a smart person. If that's the case, Dragonhead Religion would like to know what you plan to do next. The middle-aged man asked in a slightly gentler tone. Qin Feng rubbed his chin, thought for a while, and asked, what situation does the Dragonhead Religion want to see? Naturally, the 4 zones will keep each other in check. The middle-aged man paused and glanced at Qin Feng with a hint of disdain in his eyes. Given your special ability, you can control half of the forces in the Northern District. Half. Qin Feng laughed, but his laughter was filled with slight ridicule. I'm very curious. Didn't the Dragonhead Religion no longer care about the profound class? That's true. The Dragonhead Religion usually doesn't get involved in the matters of the 4th District, but that's only if the development of the 4th District is under control, the middle-aged man replied. Controllable state? Qin Feng frowned. You mean to say that the development of the various forces in the 4th District is under your control? Not bad. The middle-aged man nodded, his tone filled with pride. Even if the Dragonhead Religion doesn't care about worldly affairs, it is still the absolute ruler of District 4. Looking at the middle-aged man's face, Qin Feng sneered his heart and said, I'm very curious. You should have graduated long ago. Why are you still here? Is it very interesting to fight for the world with us young people? Or does it give you a sense of achievement? Or perhaps you're only fit to bully people who are much younger than you? The middle-aged man's expression changed and immediately became gloomy. You are belittling the Dragonhead Religion. Am I wrong? Qin Feng spread his hands and sneered. With your age, you are almost the same as my father's generation. Instead of competing with your peers, you are here to bully us children. May I ask, where am I wrong? The middle-aged man stared at Qin Feng with a gloomy expression, his fists tightly clenched. This was a scar that no one in the Dragonhead Religion was willing to talk about. That's right, their talent was mediocre and they could only rely on time to get to where they were now. There was no good place to go after leaving the academy, so they could only stay here and dominate a group of young people. But no one dared to talk about this kind of thing. They didn't even dare to think about it. Although others knew this, because of the power of the dragon head religion, no one dared to talk about it. Today was the first time someone said this to his face. It was undoubtedly a slap to his old face. Young man, don't ruin your future because of a moment of anger. Is power more important? Or is your life more important? You should think about it carefully. He coldly said, Of course my life is more important. Qin Feng said without thinking. Since that's the case, there are some things that you should know but not say. You should know that in this world, there are always some forces that you need to respect. The middle-aged man indifferently said, I am not a core member of the Dragon Head religion. As he said this, a powerful aura faintly spread out from his body. I've learned my lesson. Young people sometimes speak too rashly. Feeling the oppressive energy fluctuation, Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. I understand the meaning of the Dragon Head religion, and I know what I should do. Since you know what to do, then I should take my leave. The middle-aged man stood up and looked down at Qin Feng. I hope this is my first and last time coming here. The Dragon Head religion is here to remind you with good intentions, but the Dragon Head religion's good intentions only come once to the same person. Young man, you should cherish it. Huh? Qin Feng nodded and smiled. Of course, I only have one chance. How could I not cherish it? That's good. The middle-aged man nodded and then turned to leave. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at the closed door, his fists clenched tightly. Dragon Head religion. I wanted to mind my own business, but I didn't expect your claws to reach so far. Don't blame me for uprooting you. Qin Feng snorted coldly and planned to find Hong Yayu, Duan Hong, and others to discuss this matter. But on second thought, he gave up. The next day, he quietly found the most trustworthy core member of Tu Tianhui to discuss this matter. What? The Dragon Head religion's people looked for you last night. Duan Hong heard and quickly jumped up from his chair. This matter was too big. How could their people enter your room so easily? Hong Yayu frowned and immediately looked at Zhao Cheng. Qin Feng's residence was not the safest in the 4th district, but it was close. Because of his physical condition, there were at least 3 bone-strengthening experts around him at all times. At night, there were even more people lying in ambush around his room. Under such circumstances, the other party could still come and go without anyone noticing. Zhao Cheng's face was red. With a bang, he knelt in front of Qin Feng and said in shame, My subordinates did not protect you well. Please punish me, Feng Ge. Get up. Qin Feng waved his hand and said, I can't blame you. It's just that no one expected the Dragon Head religion's people to come at that time. But this is also a good thing for you. Don't think that you're invincible and can relax just because you control the 2 districts. Qin Feng glanced at everyone and said, That person said a lot of unpleasant things last night. This is the Dragon Head religion's slap to our face, telling us that we don't have the final say in this profound class. The real leader is still them. What do you all think about this slap? Everyone was silent for a while. Duan Hong whispered, Feng Ge, what are your plans? Even if we have to fight to the death with the Dragon Head religion, as long as you say the word, our brothers will definitely follow your lead. Feng Ge, I, Zhao Cheng, am willing to lead. We're willing too. At most, we'll fight to the death. We can't be humiliated by them like this. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits and was not scared by the reputation of the Dragon Head religion, Qin Feng nodded. Being afraid before the battle was a taboo for military personnel. Fortunately, these people did not commit this taboo. The Dragon Head religion has already targeted us. If Tu Tianhui wants to develop better, we must move this mountain. Qin Feng thought for a while and said, But with our current strength, it's not suitable to fight head-on. We need to do something. What are your plans? Hong Yayu asked. Chapter 163. Grand Unification planned. The appearance of the Dragon Head religion had disrupted all of Qin Feng's previous plans. He had no choice but to expand his forces in advance in order to contend against the Dragon Head religion. Are there any movements in the eastern and southern regions? Not at the moment. Duan Hong paused for a moment before continuing. However, the people who went to the Dark Hall told me that there are many forces in these two districts who are quite displeased with our expansion. Even if they don't do anything in the short term, I reckon that in the long run, they will erupt. And since the Dragon Head religion has appeared, they will definitely secretly control the forces in these two districts to attack us. Feng, we have to guard against these two areas. Hearing this, Qin Feng nodded inwardly. Originally, he didn't plan to bully the other party if they didn't make a move. But now he couldn't. The appearance of the Dragon Head religion made him realize that his strength was still very weak. He had to expand his influence. What do you think? He asked. After a moment of silence, Song Li stood up and said, Feng, I suggest we start a war and let the two districts taste our power. Once they taste our pain, they won't dare to believe the words of the Dragon Head religion. We can't. It'll be very difficult for us to fight against both the eastern and southern regions at the same time. Another important member of the Master Teacher Pavilion, Su Kai, shook his head and said, if we really want to go to war, we can only make a move on one of the regions. Furthermore, we have to do it quickly. It would be best if we can do it as we did with the western region, so that they don't have time to react. Qin Feng's eyes lit up. He looked at Su Kai and said, continue. Su Kai blushed slightly when he was personally nominated by his boss. He felt flattered. Don't be nervous. Relax. You are all the people I trust the most. You don't have to be so restrained in front of me. Qin Feng smiled. Su Kai nodded, calmed himself down, and said, the Dragon Head religion thought that we were afraid of them, so we'll show them. First, we'll build a good relationship with a district. In this regard, I personally think that we should build a good relationship with the Eastern District. After all, before we annexed the Western District, we did a lot of mobilization and lobbying in the Eastern District, so we should be closer to them. Secondly, we have to pretend to be friendly and give up some territory to the two districts. Firstly, it's for the Dragon Head religion to see and lull them into a false sense of security. Secondly, it's to divide the manpower of the two districts. Then, we'll gather our main forces and take down the Southern District. At that time, the Northern, Western, and Southern districts will all be under our control. Just the Eastern District alone will be easily destroyed. Hearing his words, everyone in the hall was moved. This plan was too good. Fighting the East and the South was the same as Qin Feng's plan to annex the Western District. Qin Feng's eyes lit up and the smile on his face deepened. You're Su Kai, right? You're very strategic. Su Kai smiled shyly. I got the inspiration from Feng. When I annexed the Western District, I was deeply impressed by his style of strategy, so I borrowed it. Qin Feng smiled. He had been thinking about finding another brain for Tu Tianhui. Now, it seemed that he had a candidate. He looked at the others and said, does anyone have any other suggestions? Feng, Su Kai's plan is superb. I think we should do it this way. Song Li laughed. Feng, this is indeed an excellent plan. Even Duan Hong and Hong Yeyu had no objections and agreed with this method. Seeing that no one objected, Qin Feng clapped his hands and said, since no one has any objections, I'll say a few points. Su Kai, fighting the South and the East is indeed a good idea. If we carry it out, the result will be similar to what you said. We will annex the Southern District. At this point, Qin Feng shook his head slightly and smiled. But you ignored the Dragon Head religion. They definitely have a certain amount of capital to be able to dominate here. Once we make a move, it's equivalent to declaring war on the Dragon Head religion. Leaving them a district will be a huge problem for us. It's not as easy as you said. If we annex the Southern District, the Eastern District will definitely be wary. At that time, with the prestige of the Dragon Head religion, the Eastern District will completely obey. At that time, we will have to deal with the internal situation, guard against the Dragon Head religion, and guard against the Eastern District counterattack at any time. If the four districts are not unified, the Eastern District will definitely make a fuss about it. This will bring us a lot of trouble to deal with the Southern District. In the end, it might even evolve into a betrayal of the Southern District. The Dragon Head religion will be waiting for an opportunity to make a move. The Eastern District will be watching covetously, and the Southern District will rebel internally. Once this situation occurs, Tu Tianhui will fall apart overnight. Hearing Qin Feng's analysis, everyone broke out in cold sweat. In their opinion, this was the best plan, but after Qin Feng's analysis, it was very likely to bring disaster to Tu Tianhui. Su Kai's face was slightly pale. He really did not expect that the plan he thought was perfect would have such a fatal flaw. Feng Gut. Su Kai hesitated and finally lowered his head. Qin Feng smiled and said, "Don't be discouraged. If not for the Dragon Head religion, your plan would be perfect without any flaws. To be able to come up with such a strategy in such a short time, it shows how smart you are. In the future, I'll be counting on you to give me advice. Don't be dispirited at this time." Qin Feng smiled and joked. Su Kai was stunned. Looking at Qin Feng's infectious smile, he nodded heavily. "If even this plan doesn't work, what else can we do?" Hong Yeyu frowned slightly and said, "It doesn't matter which district we destroy." Everyone looked at Qin Feng. Yes, Su Kai's plan was indeed flawless, but it would still bring destruction to Tu Tianhui. They really could not think of any other way. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. "We can't leave any district, so I've decided to take the eastern and southern districts at the same time and complete the unification of the 4 districts." The meeting room was completely silent. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at Qin Feng dumbfoundedly. How is it possible to take down 2 districts in one go? "Have you thought of a way?" Hong Yeyu asked. She was shocked by Qin Feng's boldness and courage the first time she met him. To take control of the entire northern district in a day and annex the western district in a night, someone who could do such a thing was definitely not simple-minded, nor was he someone who spoke without thinking. Since he said that he wanted to annex 2 districts at once, he must have thought it through carefully and felt that it was feasible before he dared to say it. Qin Feng nodded and said, "Withdraw all our forces from the western district and hand it over to the southern district to divert their manpower and attention. Then we'll be on good terms with the eastern district and give half of the northern district to them." Everyone was stunned. The territory would shrink by 3/4 in an instant. This was Qin Feng's idea. This is just a temporary measure to make the Dragon Head religion believe that we only plan to take half of the northern district. In addition, we can also confuse the eastern and southern districts. At this time, the backup plan we made in the eastern district will come into effect. Chapter 164. The origin of Dragon Head religion passed through the Eastern District. Everyone was puzzled. Were they not going to attack the Eastern District? But if that was the case, wouldn't it be easier to enter the South from the Western District? The main purpose of passing through the Eastern District is to seal off the news within the Eastern District. We don't need too many people in this regard. We just need to seal off the communication between the Eastern and Eastern Districts. Qin Feng said, "My plan is to join forces with some of the forces in the Eastern District to let our people pass through. At the same time, they will cooperate with us from the inside and the outside to annex the Eastern District. Then, we will directly go south and meet up with the people who have blocked the 2 districts. We will kill our way into the Southern District and destroy the 2 districts in one go." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This plan, it was both powerful and dangerous. There were too many loopholes. Just the Eastern District alone would require them to spend a lot of effort to eliminate it. When that time came, how would they have the energy to deal with the Southern District? Even if they won in the end, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. They simply didn't have enough energy and manpower to reorganize the 4 districts. This was a way to injure the enemy by 1,000 and cripple 800. I know that there's a huge difference between annexing 1 district and 2 districts, but don't forget that we've put in a lot of effort in the Eastern District. Looking at everyone's expressions, Qin Feng knew what they were thinking. He shook his head and said, "We have too many spies in the Eastern District, and many forces are on good terms with us. Under such circumstances, it won't be difficult to launch a sudden attack and eliminate them. As for the Southern District, don't forget that we've given up the entire Western District. That's a huge piece of land. If no one fights with them over it, wouldn't they be eager to occupy it? At that time, the southern district will definitely be empty. Listening to Qin Feng's analysis, it seemed to be very reasonable, but still dangerous. Hong Yiyu frowned and said, "Back then, we took a long time to stabilize the West District. Furthermore, it was under the condition that we ate a portion of their strength first. This time, it's different. There will be some unstable factors if we swallow the East District and destroy the South District. This factor definitely exists. If you want to eat more, you have to worry about the risk of inflation. In fact, there are risks in everything. The higher the income, the greater the risk." Qin Feng nodded and said, "Everyone, think about it. Once we succeed, we will be able to control the 4 districts and the entire profound class. At that time, even the Dragonhead religion will not dare to do anything to us. Of course, if we fail, we will lose everything and even our lives will be in danger. But isn't life just a gamble? Under the oppression of the Dragonhead religion, it is impossible for us to develop peacefully. In the long run, we will inevitably be eaten away. At that time, we won't even have the capital to fight for our lives." There was a moment of silence in the hall. After a long time, Duan Hong stood up, his eyes shining with a resolute light. "Feng Ge, I am willing to fight with you and bet on the big picture of life. I, Zhao Cheng, am also willing to fight. Song Li is willing to take the lead." One by one, the higher-ups expressed their willingness to take the risk. In the hall, only Hong Yayu and Su Kai had yet to express their opinions. "What do you guys think?" Qin Feng looked at the two of them. Su Kai was silent for a while and said with a bitter smile, "Actually, I don't really agree, but I believe in Feng Ji's last sentence more. If we don't fight this time, we won't even have the chance to fight in the future. So I agree." Everyone looked at Hong Yayu, who smiled helplessly. "Is my objection effective?" "No." Qin Feng stood up, looked around the hall, and said loudly, "Everyone, whether Tu Tianhui will become the leader of the profound class or be beaten back to his original state will depend on this battle. Yes, we will follow Feng Gu to our deaths." After coming out of the meeting hall, Qin Feng came to Shun Yu's residence. The latter smiled. "Little cutie, are you here for remedial lessons?" Qin Feng shook his head and smiled. He came here just to know what the teachers thought about this matter. After all, this was the unification of the 4 districts. It was not a small matter. At the same time, he wanted to know more about the Dragonhead religion. "Teacher Shun Yu, the profound class is currently very chaotic." He smiled. "What do we do?" Shun Yu spread out her hands. "The system here is like this. If you want to be promoted, you have to work hard. Saint Ryuin doesn't have the energy to nurture people with no potential. I can empathize with you on this point." Qin Feng laughed. It was because of this that he was directly demoted from a disciple of the Heavenly Hall to the profound class. Shun Yu looked at him curiously. Logically speaking, anyone who encountered such a thing would be dispirited and silent. But why didn't it show on him at all? Instead, he was lively and energetic here, making a big move with great fanfare. "Looking at you, you're not here for remedial lessons, right?" "I don't think it's time for me to take remedial lessons." Qin Feng shook his head and suddenly asked, "Teacher Shun Yu, if the profound class becomes a whole and not as chaotic as it is now, what do you think will happen? Is that still the profound class?" Shun Yu rolled her eyes. Suddenly, her expression froze, and she stared at Qin Feng without blinking. "What do you want to do?" "I'm just asking." After all, the current situation in the profound class is quite a headache for you teachers. Qin Feng's smile was warm and bright, without any aggression. Shun Yu nodded slightly and said, "Indeed, but it's very difficult. There are many people in the profound class, and they're all from different places. It's very difficult to not cause trouble for them." "Is that so? I heard that there was a force called Dragonhead religion in the past, right? It's said that it's the #1 force in the profound class." Qin Feng asked casually. "There's indeed such a force. It once developed very rapidly and almost dominated the profound class." Shun Yu shook her head and said, "But later on, I heard that there was an internal conflict. As for what it was exactly, no one knows. But since then, the Dragonhead religion has been disbanded. Disbanded? Qin Feng was shocked and said, but aren't there still members of the Dragonhead religion active now? Shen Yu stared at Qin Feng. After a while, she couldn't help but smile. You little cutie, you're here to get information from me, right? Let me guess, did the Dragonhead religion find you? Qin Feng didn't hide anything and told her what happened that night. Teacher Shen Yu, to tell you the truth, the Dragonhead religion provoked me, so I want to rule the entire profound class and then eradicate the Dragonhead religion. Qin Feng continued, and this group of old guys don't pay attention. They're already dozens of years old, but they still refuse to leave the school and fight for territory with us youngsters. I should have helped you guys by kicking them out of the academy, right? Hearing this, Shen Yu shook her head and said seriously, little cutie, you think too simply of things. If the school doesn't want to nurture trash, would they still keep them? Hearing this, Qin Feng's pupils contracted. Someone is supporting the Dragonhead religion? You can say that. Shen Yu nodded and said, although the Dragonhead religion has been disbanded, the members didn't really leave. They're still in the profound class. No, to be precise, this identity is still there. What does this mean? The St. Ryuin doesn't lack these people. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.